When I learned that I had advanced cancer, I quickly thanked the doctor and happily went home to divorce my wife. On the day of the divorce, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. But who would have thought that within 3 months, my ex-wife Merida was pregnant and the child was mine? When my mother-in-law Zhou Yumei found out, she was so happy that she even called me a spendthrift and forgot about my divorce from her daughter. But just as I was trying to maintain peace, my name suddenly became the most wanted person on the internet on social networks. At the same time, I unexpectedly discovered that my gentle ex-wife was a martial arts master, and a carefully designed frame-up began. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share. If you like this story, please let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. You talk too much. Zhou Yumei glanced at me with impatience on her face. I talk too much? You guys are just pissing me off. Yang Xingyu immediately retorted, looking aggrieved. If you talk any more, I'll hit you with my chopsticks. Zhou Yumei raised her chopsticks and pretended to hit him. Finally, she compromised with a look of heartache. Okay, just add 2 more dishes. So, Merida ordered beef and sour soup and fish with pickled cabbage, and I ordered 2 dishes. 8 dishes for 4 people. Enough for us. As soon as the dinner table quieted down, Zhou Yumei's business began. She spoke in an unquestionable tone. Marlon, Merida, you are 27 and 26. You are not children anymore. What couple doesn't quarrel? After the quarrel, you'll be fine after waking up. You quarreled to the point of divorce. I make this clear today. Remarry within 3 days. Otherwise, Merida, get out of the house and sleep on the street. Merida lowered her head and ate her meal, pretending not to hear. But she secretly decided in her heart that she would never reveal the real reason for the divorce. Mom, stop talking and eat. Next, Zhou Yumei, as usual, started criticizing everyone from her daughter to her son-in-law, from her son to the social atmosphere. And even the street office became the target of her complaints. I've gotten used to her style. This retired primary school teacher doesn't do square dance, but has become a retired version of a troll. She talks a lot, but does little. Although she is harsh in her words, she has good intentions. Vomit. Suddenly, Merida covered her mouth and began to dry heave. What's the matter? You didn't drink anything cold. I quickly stood up, patted her back, and handed her a tissue. You are so old, and you still don't take good care of yourself. Zhou Yumei kept scolding. How many times have I told you to cover your stomach when you sleep? You just won't listen. You are exactly like your father. It's so infuriating. And you, Marlon? Why are you standing there? Can't you pour water? I quickly poured a cup of warm water and tested the temperature before handing it to her to avoid scalding her. But Zhou Yumei still didn't let go. Why don't you just pour boiling water on her? It would save trouble. Merida drank some water, calmed down, and waved her hand. It's okay. Maybe I drank too much yesterday. But Zhou Yumei stared at her face for a long time and suddenly said, Merida, you are not pregnant, are you? Why is your face a little swollen? Pregnant? Absolutely impossible. Merida and I said, almost in unison. But we both remembered the accident that happened more than a month ago. That night, I came back from the hospital, and she had just finished taking a shower. In the heat of the moment, she forgot to take protective measures. Mom, I'm going to the hospital for a checkup. Merida stood up and turned to me. Marlon, let's go. The two hurried out the door, leaving Zhou Yumei shouting at the dinner table. I'm going to be a grandmother. Ha ha ha. She was only a few seconds happy when she was interrupted by Yang Xingyu. Mom, don't just be happy. You haven't paid the bill yet. The results came out quickly. Merida was pregnant. The news shocked and confused us. What are you going to do? I asked cautiously, feeling a little complicated. She sighed, her expression firm. I want to keep the child. If you leave, at least I still have the child to accompany me. I lowered my head and was silent for a moment, then said softly, it will be more difficult to get married again after having a child. Maybe I can meet someone who is willing to accept me and my child. A bitter smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, with a little hope. As we walked out of the hospital, Merida suddenly suggested, walk with me. The summer sun was scorching, and I wanted to call a taxi, but she insisted on walking. I heard that only when a couple has endured hardships together can they grow old together. Maybe we had things too smooth in the past, so we have come to this point, she said with emotion. We walked all the way to Chongfeng Park, and I suddenly remembered the last time I was mistaken for a thief when I picked up a cell phone. You are such a person. Why would you throw your phone in the middle of the street for no reason? She laughed out loud. As I was talking, my cell phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. After I answered it, a familiar voice came from the other end. Marlon, This is Officer Tan. On the phone, Officer Tan's tone was serious and helpless. Yang Xingyu signed a contract with the three Tang brothers. The matter is a bit complicated. Legally, it can't really be classified as fraud, but I want to ask about your situation privately. I openly told him about how I was wrongly accused and how Yang Xingyu cooperated with me in the acting. I even added jokingly at the end, I will never give in to evil forces. Officer Tan was amused. Brother, you are really talented, but you better be careful. The three brothers of the Tang family are not easy to deal with. After hanging up the phone, Merida asked suspiciously, What are you planning now? I touched my nose and said with a smile, This time it's not an idea, it's an opportunity. Isn't Tina going to mess with me? Yang Xingyu should be able to help me one last time. She glared at me helplessly, sighed softly, and finally said nothing more. I stared at the screen of my phone and opened the Weibo post Tina had posted. My brows furrowed more and more. In the post, she described herself as a hardworking and motivated woman. She also said that her boyfriend saved money to buy her a new phone, but it was stolen in the park. She used a video call to track the phone and took screenshots of the thief who stole the phone. But then she changed the subject and said that the police actually protected this acquaintance thief, which made her very angry. The post not only included my big headshot, but also a recording of me cursing "fuck you," and even a record of the police call and her conversation with the police. In the end, she concluded righteously, I can tolerate thieves, but I cannot tolerate the indulgence of thieves. This post went viral, with an astonishing 270,000 replies, and her followers soared to over 1 million. The comments were filled with people cursing me, cursing the thief, and scolding the police for not doing anything. What's even more outrageous is that she pinned a message saying she was willing to pay 100,000 yuan to find the thief. I closed the phone screen and sneered. I turned to Yang Xingyu and said, Take out the last contract and modify it. It's a waste for recycling. Merida was at the side and whispered, Don't lead Xingyu astray, don't go too far, accumulate some blessings, and think about our children. I nodded and accompanied Merida back to her parents' home. As soon as I entered the door, my mother-in-law Zhou Yumei rushed over, her eyes shining. Where's the report? Are the test results out? Are you pregnant? Is it a boy or a girl? Merida lowered her head and changed her shoes at the door without saying a word. It's so anxious. I don't know if she is pregnant or not. Zhou Yumei stamped her feet anxiously. I'm pregnant, but it's been less than 2 months and the gender is still unknown. I replied casually. The mother-in-law's face suddenly broke into a smile. Okay, Xiaoxue, go and rest. I'll take care of the rest. Merida wanted to pour a glass of water, but she stopped her directly. Sit still. I'll pour it. Then she took the glass of water, fanned it with her hand to cool it down before handing it over, as if she had turned into a super caring grandmother in reserve. Turning her head, she turned her target to me again. Why are you standing there? You're going to be a father soon, but you're still acting like a child. Go buy some fruit, both sour and sweet. I just put down my bag and picked up the water cup to go out, and Zhou Yumei noticed it again. Wait, what's the origin of this cup? A cup. A cup? This big cup is like a bucket, and it looks pretty nice. How much is it? Where did you buy it? I bought it from the Brilliant Tableware. It's 5,600 each. I'll buy you one too. What? 5,600 for a cup. The mother-in-law almost jumped up, spendthrift. If Xiaoxue wasn't pregnant, I would have divorced you immediately. Xiaoxue, your man spends money recklessly. Did you know that? You must control the money tightly. There will be more places to spend money after the birth of a child. How can you live like this? Zhou Yumei kept nagging. Merida was afraid that I was annoyed, so she secretly winked at me. I sighed and went out with the fruit. Along the way, my mother-in-law's nagging reminded me of my deceased mother. My mother used to nag like this all the time. Now, I actually miss that feeling. I bought 3 kinds of apples, sweet, sour, and crisp. But when I checked the map on my phone, I found that there was no Brilliant Tableware store nearby, so I had to carry the apples back to my mother-in-law's house. When we got back, Zhou Yumei's eyes were red. Obviously, she had just cried. She washed the fruit, peeled 2 apples, gave one to Merida and one to me, while Yang Xingyu stood by and got nothing. After taking the apple and taking a bite, Zhou Yumei suddenly spoke up. Marlon, Merida told me about your illness. For this divorce, I admit that I wrongly blamed you. It's not like you two have a relationship problem, so why can't you shoulder it together? Aren't we a family, supposed to support each other? When I heard this, my nose felt sore. I lowered my head and said nothing, just eating the apples silently. She continued, "Child, husband and wife should rely on each other and not treat each other as a burden. If you can't even rely on your spouse, who else can you count on? Xiao Xue is pregnant now. Whether you divorce or not, you must give birth to the child. Even if she remarries in the future, she must leave a descendant for your Qin family." "I'm sorry, Mum. I know I was wrong," I whispered. The mother-in-law nodded. "I'm glad to know. You should be more optimistic about your illness and don't give up easily. There is an old man in my painting class who has cancer, but he still lives happily. How old are you? How can you be so negative?" I forced a smile and promised her that I would visit Merida every week. Looking back, Yang Xingyu came over and whispered, "Brother-in-law, you just said you wanted to see me. What's the matter?" I quickly changed the subject. "Let's talk in your room." After entering Yang Xingyu's bedroom, I handed him Tina's post. After he finished reading it, his eyes lit up. "Brother-in-law, your ability to attract hatred is unmatched. Don't worry, leave it to me." I sent the revised contract to Lawyer Neo for review, and then Yang Xingyu took action. He sent an email to Tina using a fake account, claiming that he had met me by chance, and attached 3 secretly taken photos. 2 days after the email was sent, Tina replied and added him on WeChat. "Do you really have that person's address?" she asked tentatively. "Yes, it's 100 accurate." Yang Xingyu replied firmly. "Then please send it to me. Thank you." "Sure. Do you want to pay by online transfer or cash?" "What's the meaning?" "A reward of $100,000. How are you going to pay it?" Tina was immediately unhappy. "How can you ask for money? Shouldn't you stand on the side of justice and support me? This is so disappointing. If society is like you, it will be doomed sooner or later. Is your reward real?" Yang Xingyu asked seriously. "Of course it's true, but you shouldn't help just for the money." Diaz Roriten content. This incident was so dramatic from beginning to end. I never thought that helping a young lady find her phone would turn out like this. That day, I was looking at my phone, and Yang Xingyu suddenly got so angry that he almost threw it. He threw the chat history in front of me, and I was stunned when I saw it. That woman is so weird that it makes people speechless. Forget it. She just lost a cell phone worth 10,000 yuan. It's really unlikely to ask her to pay a reward of 100,000 yuan. I comforted him. Yang Xingyu didn't plan to argue anymore and gave up directly, not wanting to waste time talking to the other party. But the other party didn't plan to let him go and continued to ask for the address and said, "Handsome guy, give me an address." Yang Xingyu sneered. "Give me the money first. Didn't you say you wanted a reward of 100,000 yuan? If you don't pay me, don't even think about me telling you the address." The other party immediately exploded. "You are a grown man, and you are arguing with a woman. Don't you feel ashamed? If you really piss me off, I will expose you without hesitation because I have millions of fans. Men and women are equal, and we should keep our word. I am not afraid of you. Even if you have millions of fans, a liar is a liar. Stop harassing me." The two were too lazy to type and started to curse each other directly through voice, which was full of gunpowder. The other party cursed Yang Xingyu for being obsessed with money, and Yang Xingyu cursed the other party back for being a liar and deserved retribution. After cursing, Yang Xingyu thought the matter was over, but he didn't expect that the good show had just begun. The woman directly posted a small essay on Weibo with a sensational title, "How Low Has Morality Fallen?" In the article, she said that her phone was stolen, and she was not only treated roughly by the police, but also encountered someone taking advantage of the situation and threatening not to provide any clues unless she was paid 100,000 yuan. She also posted some screenshots of the chat records. As soon as the article was published, netizens began to flood the screen with comments, with most people condemning Yang Xingyu. A few people also questioned her. Since you publicly offered a reward, how can others follow the reward conditions? However, these voices were quickly silenced by her fans, and her number of fans actually increased a lot. Fans suggested that she find the scammer, but she showed kindness and said she chose to let him go. However, she would not let go of the phone issue. Fans offered suggestions, asking her to pay the money first, and if the address given by the other party was a fake, she could call the police. If it was real, she could catch the thief and get back the loss. The woman was tempted when she heard this. She went home and discussed with her boyfriend. "Honey, how about we spend 100,000 yuan to give it a try?" The boyfriend looked helpless. "Honey, where do I get 100,000? I only have 50,000 in private savings." "What? You actually have some private money?" She almost exploded. Although they had a quarrel, they finally collected enough money, and she took the initiative to contact Yang Xingyu and expressed her willingness to pay. Yang Xingyu had given up hope, but she actually paid. He agreed to meet at KFC, and when they met, her eyes went straight. Tina stared at Yang Xingyu and thought, "This guy is much more handsome than my boyfriend." After the terms were agreed upon, both parties signed a contract and put their fingerprints on it. She transferred the money. Yang Xingyu took the money and prepared to take them to find the person. But when they arrived at the place, it turned out to be a single-family villa. Tina was dumbfounded. How could someone living in such a place steal a mobile phone? I rang the doorbell, and Marlon, wearing slippers, opened the door. He looked confused. "Who are you?" Tina asked awkwardly. "Are you the one who video chatted with me?" Marlon suddenly realized. "Oh, you are the one who framed me for stealing the phone?" Upon seeing this, Yang Xingyu immediately recorded the conversation as evidence, and then left in style, leaving Tina and her boyfriend looking at each other in bewilderment. Her boyfriend stepped forward and said, "You stole my girlfriend's phone. We spent 100,000 yuan to find you. You have to think about this matter and pay 120,000 yuan." Marlon watched Yang Xingyu disappear into the distance, feeling a little relieved, thinking that this boy had finally grown up. These days, the routines of society are deeper than people's hearts, and who is the hunter and who is the prey is always changing. As long as Yang Xingyu is a hunter a few more times, he will be able to gain a foothold one day. On this side, Tina suddenly perked up as if she had found a backer and put on an aggressive look. "Marlon, right? I saw your name at the police station. You already live in a villa, and you're still arguing with me for hundreds of thousands? Why don't you call the police? I guess you get a life sentence. You made your fortune by stealing, live in a villa, and work 996 in the thief world. You're definitely a talent." Marlon almost burst out laughing after hearing this. This woman actually imagined that he bought the villa by stealing? Marlon was speechless and asked casually, "Miss, did you make a mistake?" Tina continued to use her invincible imagination. "Did you make a mistake? You didn't expect you to be a repeat offender. This is how the world works. The law is vast and nothing can escape it. Marlon, do you think you can hide? Don't be too happy too soon. I am a gentle, kind, and righteous woman. I will never give up until I force you to mend your ways." She started to talk to herself, and Marlon stood there speechless. This woman's ability to talk nonsense was even better than the retired elementary school teacher I met before. "Come on, take some pictures first." Tina took out her phone and frantically filmed Marlon, even recording a video. "The evidence collection is over. You can't run away. If you want to settle it, pay money or go to jail. It's your choice." "Photos." Marlon raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you say last time that you had taken screenshots?" "Yes, there are also recordings and police station files. If you want me to drop the case, you have to apologize and compensate me," Tina announced proudly. Marlon was too lazy to bother with this weird couple and just slammed the door and went upstairs. After all, Yang Xingyu was still waiting outside. Tina and her boyfriend sneered at each other, thinking that they had mastered the overall situation and photographed every corner of the villa, as if they could bring Marlon to justice soon. However, their shooting career was soon interrupted. Marlon suddenly appeared leisurely with an oversized water cup on his back and a bright bicycle. "Hey, where are you going?" Tina's boyfriend immediately jumped out and asked, "Exercise, what's wrong?" Marlon answered confidently, "Tell me clearly before you leave, or do you believe me and I'll destroy your villa? You can smash anything you want. The villa has surveillance cameras and will automatically alarm. Just wait for the police to catch you after you smash it." Marlon sneered and rode away easily, leaving two people disheveled in the wind. Soon, the sound of police sirens pierced the air, and the two were immediately frightened out of their wits. The police got out of the car and ran straight to the villa. "Are you the owners of this place?" "No, no. We were just passing by." Tina stammered to explain, selling Marlon out completely. "He just ran away on his bike." The police left after leaving the documents. Tina was completely devastated. The $100,000 will never be recovered. Marlon is definitely a fugitive. At this time, Marlon had already ridden his bike to a high-end furniture store. The clerk was very enthusiastic when he saw him, and even served Yang Xingyu iced cola and various snacks, which Yang Xingyu ate with great enjoyment. "This is my brother Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, this is Xingku. His service attitude is pretty good, right?" Marlon introduced casually. The clerk almost burst into tears. "Mr. Chen, my name is Xingku, not Kai." "Okay, I also want to buy 2 cups, red and white, and engrave my names on them. Zhou Yumei and Merida. Marlon said casually. Yang Xingyu was dissatisfied. Brother-in-law, you please my mother and my sister. What about me? 2 cups for a bicycle. The bicycle is for you. Marlon explained calmly. Finally, Yang Xingyu rode the bicycle home, gave the red cup to his mother, the white one to his sister, and kept the black one for himself. When his mother Zhou Yumei heard the price of the cup, she immediately got angry and picked up a broom. Marlon spends money recklessly, and you don't stop him? Yang Xingyu covered his head innocently. Mom, my brother-in-law spends money recklessly. Why are you hitting me? I'm gonna hit you. Zhou Yumei gritted her teeth and swung the broom even harder. After Yang Xingyu left, Marlon didn't think much about it and went to the forest park for a ride before returning home. As soon as he got downstairs, his eyes were attracted by a piece of paper posted outside the mailbox. Court summons? After returning home, he took a shower and changed into shorts. He went downstairs with the mailbox key and opened the mailbox. In addition to the subpoena, there were also a pile of utility bills. He threw the bills into the trash can and went upstairs with the subpoena sent by the court. After opening the envelope, he was stunned by the contents. The plaintiff was Gu Miao, a 63-year-old woman. The subpoena stated that Gu Miao was washing clothes near the toilet in the forest park. She was tired and tried to rest on Marlon's parked bicycle. As a result, the bicycle fell over and she fell hard, breaking her leg and wrist bones. She accused Marlon of parking his car arbitrarily without marking safety warnings and demanded compensation totaling 460,000 yuan, including medical expenses, mental damages, and lost wages. Seeing this weird incident that happened out of nowhere, Marlon was speechless and almost rolled his eyes. He clearly remembered that he moved the car to the corner next to the toilet in order not to block the road. No matter how he made up a story, it couldn't be his responsibility. He took a photo of the lawyer's letter and sent it to his lawyer friend Nyo Guhong. A few minutes later, Nyo called him and started laughing. Marlon, have you been too lucky recently? How could such a weird thing happen to you? Marlon was helpless. Stop laughing. Let's talk business first. Give me your bank account number, and I will hire you as my family lawyer. You have to help me with this. Lawyer Nyo said straightforwardly. This case is too classic. Just by fighting this lawsuit, the reputation of my firm will be further enhanced. Don't mention the money first. Go to the park quickly and see if there are any surveillance cameras near the toilets. We need to collect evidence. After hanging up the phone, Marlon went straight to the forest park. Before he even reached the toilet, he saw the familiar toilet manager, Hu Guangxing, secretly wiping away tears. Uncle Hu, what happened? Seeing this, Marlon hurried forward to show concern. Hu Guangxing sighed. Gu Miao's family sued me too, saying that I didn't stop her from washing clothes, which led to the accident. Now they are claiming 1 million from the park, and I am jointly liable, so I have to pay 170,000. Hearing this, Marlon was so angry that he slammed the wall. This is just bullying an honest person. I just asked her family to extort 460,000 yuan for my bicycle, and now they are not letting you go either. This is outrageous. Alas, my annual salary is only more than 30,000 yuan. To earn 170,000 yuan, I would have to work for several years without eating or drinking. I have advised people like Gu Miao countless times not to come and wash things, but she just wouldn't listen. Now that something has happened, she actually blames me. It's really unfair. Hu Guangxing complained while wiping his tears. Marlon patted Uncle Hu on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Leave this matter to the lawyer, and I can find evidence to make it clear." The two went to the surveillance room together, and the surveillance room administrator told Marlon, "We will keep the video for 2 years. You need to find a lawyer to issue a certificate or contact the police station." Marlon nodded and handed over a pack of cigarettes. The monitoring room administrator readily helped him retrieve the video. The video clearly restored the incident. Marlon parked the car and moved to the corner, and Gu Miao appeared in the picture. She was washing things at the sink, but her eyes were attracted by the bicycle. After looking around and making sure no one was paying attention, she put down the things in her hands and reached out to push the bike. As a result, because the bike was locked, she pushed too hard and fell down. Although the bike fell over, it did not hit her. Seeing this, Marlon almost laughed out loud. It seems that she wants to steal my car. The monitoring room administrator couldn't help but complain. Your car is really too eye-catching. Everyone who sees it wants to touch it. The video also recorded the whole process of toilet manager Hu Guangxing calling an ambulance immediately after Gu Miao fell. And then Marlon arrived and carried Gu Miao to the side of the road to wait for the ambulance. Marlon felt a little better after watching the video. He knew that this case was not only for himself, but also for seeking justice for honest people like Hu Guangxing. Although the popularization of information technology has improved the transparency of society, people like Gu Miao obviously trampled on morality. After calling lawyer Niu, Marlon directly transferred 10,000 yuan to him. It's just for running errands. This is quite troublesome. Feel free to come to me for dinner. It's my treat. Don't be polite to me. Lawyer Niu refused bluntly. I will come to you with the power of attorney later. After you sign it, I will apply for a copy of the surveillance video. Don't bother, I'm going back to the city this afternoon, and I'll come see you on the way. Marlon thought it's just right to go see Merida. Marlon and Merida to live together because she saw on Douyin that pregnant women should not live with men who smoke, and she was also worried that sleeping together would affect the fetus. Although Marlon thought she was a bit exaggerated, he didn't care much. In the afternoon, Marlon went to Guhong Law Firm to sign the power of attorney, and then went straight to his ex-wife's family home. This old community has been built for more than 30 years, and the neighbors are close and like to get together to chat. As soon as Marlon arrived downstairs, he saw a group of elderly people gathered together, passing a pink cup around with great interest. This cup is 5,600 yuan, not expensive. It was given to me by my son-in-law. Zhou Yumei stood in the middle of the room, showing off with great joy. Marlon is very filial. He gave his salary card to my daughter a long time ago. Last month, he made a little money from his part-time job, about 100,000 yuan, and bought 3 cups for our family and a bicycle for my son, which was only 1,888 yuan. They are all cheap. It helps the child save money. Hearing this, Marlon couldn't help but hold his forehead. He didn't even know when he had earned 100,000 yuan from his part-time job. How could these stories come out of Zhou Yumei's mouth so realistically? Before he could quietly retreat, an old lady spotted him and said, "Hey, isn't this Marlon? Come on, is this cup really 5,600? Marlon was pushed to the center of the crowd and had to bite the bullet to explain. This cup is from Brilliant Tableware. Their company focuses on high-end products, and the price is inflated. The cup is made of titanium alloy, which is light and durable, but it is not really worth the price for drinking water." The old men and women listened with great interest and insisted that he open the payment record for verification. Marlon had no choice but to show a transaction of 16,800 yuan, which was the purchase record of 3 cups. Now, the onlookers were even more amazed. Marlon is so filial. He bought white couple cups for me and my daughter. I'm old, and I like red, which is festive. Zhou Yumei continued to show off, her tone full of pride. At this moment, an aunt suddenly asked, "Why is your daughter living back at her parents' house? Did you two have a fight?" Marlon grinned and said, "Xiao Xue is pregnant, and I'm afraid my smoking will affect her, so it's better for us to live separately." He couldn't just say that they were divorced. But the auntie insisted. "I heard you sold the house?" Zhou Yumei quickly interrupted. "We need to move to a bigger house. We need to hire a nanny after the baby is born, and I also need to move over to take care of my grandson. The original place can no longer accommodate us." Another aunt continued to ask, "Isn't your original house 100 square meters? If it's bigger, you're planning to buy a villa, right?" Zhou Yumei was slightly stunned, then answered seriously, "I don't want to buy something too expensive. Under 50 million will do. We can't afford anything too expensive." The elderly people watching were shocked, and the aunt who was making trouble turned pale with anger. She turned around and suggested, "Aunt Zhu, isn't your son a real estate agent? Ask him to introduce some suitable houses to Marlon." As soon as she finished speaking, Aunt Zhu decisively called her son. Not long after, a young man in formal attire came hurriedly and introduced himself. "Mr. Chun, I'm Ma Zhongjie, and our company happens to represent some houses worth about 50 million. Marlon didn't intend to say more, but thinking of the baby in Merida's belly, he suddenly felt that leaving a suite for the child was not a bad idea. "Then help me find a suitable one within 50 million. After listening to this, Ma Zhongjie immediately introduced a foreclosed house. It has a good location, a large area, and the price is 30% lower than the market price. Marlon's heart moved, and before he had time to talk in depth, the elderly people who were watching had already asked questions. In the end, there were even 7 or 8 old ladies who dragged Ma Zhongjie to the agency for detailed consultation, including Zhou Yumei. Marlon was able to get away and hurried upstairs to find Merida. When the door opened, Merida saw him and was stunned for a moment. "Why are you here?" Aren't you staying in the suburbs to recuperate? The room was tidy, with a schedule Zhou Yumei had carefully prepared posted on the wall. Merida sighed helplessly. My mom is driving me crazy. Go find a nearby mental hospital and sign up for my mom. Marlon didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Okay. First tell me what you want to eat and I'll go buy it. What did she give you to eat? Marlon asked as he sat down. What else can I eat? It's all stew. There's so little salt that you can count each grain. She saw an expert on TikTok saying pregnant women should eat less sugar and less salt. So she insisted on starving me to death so that she could leave a fortune for her son. Merida looked resentful and pointed to the menu on the wall, which was filled with a week's worth of light dishes. How can you eat so much? Marlon was surprised. He remembered that Merida used to be very picky about her meals because she was afraid of getting fat. I was forced to do it. She's stricter than a robot. My mom used the same tactics on me that she used on elementary school students. Merida rolled her eyes. Besides, she makes me walk 20,000 steps every day, so it's hard for me to gain weight. Go buy some fried chicken. My phone was confiscated because I'm afraid of radiation if I play it for more than an hour. She also watched it on TikTok. She's so depraved that there's no hope. Merida complained like a nagging woman. Marlon knew her taste well, thought for a moment, and said, the barbecue restaurant has to open in the evening. I'll buy you some fried chicken first. Brother-in-law, there's me too. The door creaked open, and Yang Xingyu stuck his head out, looking at the two of them slyly. Bah! Merida picked up the pillow and hit Yang Xingyu on the head accurately. Go back. I won't leave. Yang Xingyu covered his head. Sister, I know a barbecue restaurant that's open during the day. I'll take you there. What should we do when Mom comes back? Merida seemed a little guilty. Don't worry. She favors boys over girls and doesn't care about you at all. Even if you die heroically, you must remember to leave your property to me. Yang Xingyu talked nonsense, which caused his sister to beat him up. The three of them sneaked out while Zhou Yumei was away. When they arrived at the barbecue restaurant, a black and white banner was hung at the door, and the sign read, Zen Cool Barbecue Restaurant. First-time customers would probably think that the owner had just died and his wife was still celebrating. The lights in the store were dim. The curtains completely blocked the light from outside. The air conditioning was strong, and with the death rock music, the atmosphere was as gloomy as a funeral hall. Yang Xingyu found a seat and sat down with familiarity. The waiter threw down 3 menus with a cold face, on which were written corpse canon. Merida couldn't help but laugh. This store is so pretentious. The names on the menu were even more outrageous. Decomposition of the corpse and special for vampires. Merida ordered a bunch of skewers and drinks, such as spider brains, but what was served was kiwi juice. Although the menu was pretentious, the taste was quite good. While Yang Xingyu was eating, he suddenly said, Brother-in-law, sister, I want to open a restaurant. Merida immediately mocked. You're opening a restaurant? You'll lose a lot of money. Are you planning to sell your mother's organs for capital? Let my brother-in-law be the president. He's steady. Yang Xingyu ignored his sister and directly dragged Marlon into the water. Merida rolled her eyes and said, No, Marlon needs to take care of his health. Don't pull him. Yang Xingyu was not to be outdone. Even if my brother-in-law recovers, he will have to serve you, a grumpy old Buddha. He must have burned incense in his previous life to meet you. Shut up. Merida gritted her teeth and picked up the chopsticks to hit someone. Marlon quickly changed the subject. Suyu, what kind of restaurant are you really planning to open? Yang Xingyu said seriously. Focus on the white-collar market, healthy, low-salt, and low-sugar food. Only do lunch, standardized products, make money to open branches, make profits in 3 years, and go public in 5 years. Marlon nodded. It's a good idea, but the investment is still a bit large. You just made $200,000. You can try to get started. Merida immediately became alert when she heard this. What, 200,000? Yang Xingyu, did you and Marlon do something shameful again? Under his sister's questioning, Yang Xingyu confessed the money he earned from Tina. Merida was furious. Marlon, don't do this kind of thing in the future. Do something good for our children. Marlon scratched his head. Okay, I'll listen to you. However, Yang Xingyu was unwilling to accept this. The money was given by her fans, not her own. Sister, please don't block my path to wealth. The three chatted for a long time, but Yang Xingyu firmly disagreed to cooperate with his sister on the issue of hotel shares. I have been bullied by her for 20 years. I will never open a restaurant with her. Merida was not polite. His failure since childhood can be used as a negative example. I own 99% of the restaurant shares, and the remaining 1% is for my mother. The three of them argued endlessly, but in the end they just ate their own food. Before leaving the store, they walked around the street and waited until the barbecue smell got rid of them before they dared to go home. When they got home, Zhou Yumei was forcing Merida to eat. She asked worriedly, "Xiao Xue, why is your belly so big? Is the baby growing too fast?" Merida didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Mom, I ate too much." "Don't talk nonsense. This little bit of food can't fill my stomach at all. The child must have grown up. Now that the nutrition is good, the child has developed early." Zhou Yumei sighed with certainty. In fact, Merida had no appetite because she had secretly eaten barbecue during the day. She didn't finish her meal, so she took Marlin for a walk. "If you eat any more, I'll throw up." At 8 o'clock in the evening, Merida had walked 30,000 steps, and Marlin felt his legs were going to fail. He secretly made up his mind. From today on, he must strengthen his exercise, otherwise he would be physically exhausted sooner or later. After the walk, Marlin rested on the sofa for an hour to recover. At 9 o'clock in the evening, he said goodbye to Merida and drove home. Merida sat on the sofa in a daze. Zhou Yumei came to her side with some cut fruits and asked softly, "Xiao Xue, what's wrong? You don't look very happy. Eat some fruits." Merida lowered her head and hesitated for a moment before she told him that Marlin wanted to help Yang Xingyu open a store but would not leave her any shares. "Mom, do you think his health is getting worse and worse? He hasn't even bought new clothes. He still looks the same as he did 3 years ago." At this point, she couldn't help but threw herself in her mother's arms and cried, "Mom, I'm sorry for him. He has such a hard life, but I never cared about him well." Zhou Yumei hugged her daughter tightly, her eyes reddened. "Child, don't think too much. The past is in the past. Think more about the future." "Mom, do he and I still have a future?" "Of course. The baby in your belly is your future." Meanwhile, Marlin has returned home and spent the evening formulating his own life goals. One, that if I could live to see my child being born and see him once, I would have no regrets even if I died. 2. Live until your child graduates from elementary school so that you can protect him as he grows up. 3. Live to see your child graduate from college and watch him grow up and become successful. As he wrote down these goals, tears fell from his eyes. He was reluctant to leave the human world, but he knew that everything would ultimately depend on God's will. He forced himself to cheer up and wrote down a detailed recovery plan. Reduce smoking by 1 cigarette per week and quit smoking completely after 40 weeks. Exercise 3 hours a day, including jogging, walking, and strength training. Strictly avoid pickled foods such as barbecue and bacon and replace them with fresh ingredients. Go to bed before 11 p.m. every night and reduce the time spent using electronic devices. It was 3 o'clock in the morning when Marlin finished writing the plan. A familiar feeling arose in his tiredness, just like when he worked overtime all night in the company before. A few days later, Nyo Guhong finally finished copying the surveillance video. She not only obtained the evidence of Grandma Gu falling that day, but also copied the footage of her washing vegetables frequently before. "Lawyer Nyo, uncle who has also been sued. Please help him. I will pay for the fees." Marlin offered. "No problem." Nyo Guhong agreed readily, and then went to the park with Marlin to find Hu Guangxing. When Nyo Guhong saw Hu Guangxing, her heart ached. The old man had obviously lost weight due to the huge pressure, and his face was sallow. "Uncle Hu, this is Lawyer Nyo. She represented me in my case." Hu Guangxing was so grateful that he almost cried. "Thank you, my daughter, thank you." Nyo Guhong comforted him and inquired about the case in detail, and found that not only Hu Guangxing, but also the company responsible for the forest park, Shangqing Environmental Protection, was sued. She immediately contacted Shangqing Environmental Protection, and the other party handed over the lawyer's letter and agency rights to her without saying a word. This is an opportunity to change the social atmosphere. Guhong Law Firm is willing to do its part for society. Nyo Guhong symbolically charged 1 yuan in attorney fees and began to make detailed preparations for the case. Although this case is clear, it will take at least 3 months for the trial to begin because the court is fully booked with civil lawsuits, Nyo Guhong explained to Marlin. Marlin lamented the tediousness of legal work. Not only does one have to analyze the other party's claims and find the appropriate legal provisions, but one also has to refute the other party's claims through evidence, and even prepare additional materials when filing a counterclaim. On the other hand, Marlin also began to investigate the catering industry. He got up early every day to exercise and recorded the situation of street restaurants. After a few days of statistics, he found that although the catering industry seemed to be booming, many small restaurants were closed down. That day, he stopped in front of a shop called IL Coffee. He had bought coffee here a few days ago, but now the shop was empty. "Boss, are you a corpse collector?" A young man in torn jeans suddenly asked. "Body collector?" Marlon was confused. "Restaurant corpse collector." The young man grinned. When a restaurant closes down and no one takes over, the equipment and supplies inside are sold at a low price, and then the corpse collector will appear. Marlon suddenly realized the truth, but he also felt the cruelty of the catering industry. He knew that if Yang Xingyu opened a store rashly, the chance of failure would be much higher than he imagined. Chapter 48. Choosing a cemetery made me cry. It turns out that the restaurant corpse collector is someone who takes over the equipment and supplies of a restaurant after it goes bankrupt at a low price and then resells them. Does this job require a lot of investment? Marlon asked curiously. "No need, just rent a warehouse. Look at this coffee machine of mine. The original price is $75,000, plus these beautiful cups. A set is more than $4,000. The total original price is more than $300,000. Guess how much the transfer price is? Less than $1,000." The fashionable handsome guy looked helpless. Marlon's eyes widened in surprise. "So cheap? These look at least 80% new. I thought they started at $100,000. The cups can be sold at a high price because they don't have the restaurant's name printed on them. For example, the chopsticks and plates at the beef rice restaurant across the street have the restaurant's name engraved on them, and no one wants them even if they're given away for free." Marlon thought for a while and said, "How about you pack up all these things and give them to me? Do you want to open a shop or be a corpse collector?" "I want to try it." "Okay, $20,000 door-to-door delivery." Marlon agreed without hesitation, but he didn't expect that he would move a bunch of coffee equipment back home. A few days later, he saw a decoration banner in front of a shop called Euro Coffee and took the opportunity to contact the owner and sold the equipment to him. After some bargaining, he finally sold it for 120,000 yuan, making a net profit of 90,000 yuan. This deal made Marlon realize that reselling catering equipment seemed to have more prospects than opening his own store. However, while he was happy about making money this time, he couldn't help but worry about his own fate. What if someone dies? Who will collect the body? This thought made Marlon depressed all of a sudden. He began to think seriously about the arrangements for his funeral. He had a pregnant wife, Merida, at home, and she couldn't stand being disturbed. His father was from the countryside and was unfamiliar with the big city, so he was not suitable. Marlon decided to choose a cemetery by himself and make plans for the future. He searched for cemeteries on his phone and finally chose the Ning Cemetery in Dongqing District. It is close to the city and more lively than the suburbs. Marlon felt that he was lonely enough when he was alive, and it would be better to have more fun after death. Biking across the city, eating healthily and relaxing along the way, he finally reached the cemetery in 4 hours. As soon as I got to the door, I heard the gatekeeper teasing. "What's going on today? Did you guys have an appointment?" "What?" Marlon was puzzled. 10 minutes ago, there was a guy riding the same bike and carrying the same cup, but his cup was black, which looks better than your white one. You two, one black and one white, seemed like you made an appointment. Marlon frowned. "Where is he?" "Number 12, West District." Marlon suspected it was Yang Xingyu, so he didn't ask any more questions and pushed the cart into the cemetery. The place with many tombstones seemed quiet and cold. He heard a whisper and followed the sound closer. It was indeed Yang Xingyu, sitting in front of a tombstone. "Dad, I have good news to tell you. My sister is pregnant." Yang Xingyu took a sip of the drink in the cup, looking relaxed. Marlon was stunned. He didn't expect Yang Xingyu to come to the cemetery, and he didn't expect that the dad he mentioned might be his ex-father-in-law. "Dad, today is the anniversary of your death. My sister was supposed to come, but she's pregnant, and Mom won't let her go out. Dad, everything is fine at home. Mom bought me a house auctioned by the court, which is 30% cheaper than the market price. However, Mom asked me to get married quickly, saying that I am impetuous and I can only calm down after getting married. My girlfriend also asked me to find a formal job, and my brother-in-law wants to help me open a restaurant, which I am also very tempted. Dad, it's really funny and sad to talk about my brother-in-law. He is a good man. The money for me to study cooking in the past few years was all paid by my brother-in-law. My sister lied to him and said that the money was spent on herself, and he didn't get angry when he knew the truth. In fact, my brother-in-law and my sister divorced, not because of relationship problems, but because he had cancer and didn't want to drag my sister down." Yang Xingyu's voice lowered. My sister cried secretly many times, and it made me sad to see her. Dad, my sister-in-law is very good, really very good. His fate is so miserable. He finally managed to survive but got a terminal illness. Dad, please bless him in heaven. If he can get better, I don't want anything. Marlon listened to all this, and his nose was sore. He pushed the cart out of the cemetery silently, found a deserted place, squatted down, and burst into tears. Chapter 49. Meeting the agent Feng Daqiao again. After returning home, Marlon turned on his computer and started searching for information about lung cancer. He made up his mind. No matter what method he used, he must survive. The doctor gave him only 6 months to live, and now more than 2 months have passed. Although the cancer may have spread, he has no obvious symptoms except fatigue when climbing stairs and running, and occasional dull pain in the chest. Perhaps the Chinese medicine he drinks as tea every day is working? Although the information on the internet was varied and confusing, Marlon decided not to delay and go to the hospital for a checkup. No matter what the result was, he wanted to have a clear understanding of the future. The next day, Marlon drove to the 6th hospital with his medical records. After a whole day of examinations, he finally got some free time at noon. His ex-wife Merida called and invited him to have lunch together, and he agreed. Since the divorce, Marlon and Merida have had few opportunities to see each other. Now, she is pregnant with his child, and Marlon has no idea what to do in the future. 3 years ago, when they first got married, the family lived together for a short time. But because the mother and Merida had different personalities and living habits, they had a falling out within 3 months. After the mother left, she died of illness, which has always been a knot in Marlon's heart and also alienated his relationship with Merida. Marlon accidentally heard Yang Xingyu's monologue at the cemetery. He realized that his mother and wife just had different lifestyles, and the quarrel was not anyone's fault. He felt relieved in an instant and let go of the grudges of the past. He arrived at Merida's house. He found that she had indeed gained some weight. On the table were exquisite dishes such as stewed chicken, mushu pork, and braised prawns, which were obviously the result of Zhou Yumei's busy work early in the morning. Eat more, Marlon, Zhou Yumei urged as she picked up some food. You're too thin. You need to eat more. Merida also chimed in. Yes, eat more. My mom forces me to eat every day, and I never have an empty stomach. Yang Xingyu protested. No one cares about me? I'm hungry. Now that you're angry, go find your dong-dong. Merida's words left her brother speechless. During the dinner table, Marlon mentioned that he had recently made 90,000 yuan by reselling coffee shop supplies and thought that Yang Xingyu could give it a try. Zhou Yumei and Merida both thought this job was suitable for him, but Yang Xingyu waved his hand and said, Come on, I don't have any money right now. It costs money to collect these things. Don't you still have 200,000? Marlon asked back. Gone. My mother used all the money to buy a house. Yang Xingyu looked innocent. Zhou Yumei said proudly. The court auctioned the house for only 4.2 million yuan for 100 square meters. I paid the full amount. Marlon frowned slightly. Have you got the property certificate? Is the house vacant? We'll get the property certificate next Monday, and the people in the house have promised to move out once we finish the paperwork. Marlon couldn't help but remind him. If the house auctioned by the court is not vacant, the people inside may be stubborn tenants. When the house is handed over, someone from the court must be present. After dinner, the family went to find Ma Zhongjie, the intermediary in charge of the transaction, to verify the details. Ma Zhongjie warmly received Zhou Yumei's family, but was obviously cold to Marlon. He seemed to be unaware of Marlon's relationship with this family, and instead whispered to his colleagues. This guy said he wanted to buy a house worth 50 million last time, but he was dressed so shabby, no one would believe it. Just then, another agent, Feng Daqiao, saw Marlon and greeted him enthusiastically. Brother Qin, what a coincidence. Marlon smiled and asked, Xiao Feng, weren't you at Wingxinyuan? Why are you here? Feng Daqiao sighed, don't mention it. A few clients were causing trouble, saying that I had colluded with them to defraud them of 100,000 yuan. The company was afraid of trouble, so they transferred me here. Marlon felt uncomfortable after hearing this, and vaguely felt that he might have indirectly harmed Feng Daqiao, but he didn't say it explicitly, just patted the other person on the shoulder. Seeing that the two were getting along well, Ma Zhongjie quickly apologized with a smile. Brother Qin, talk to Lao Feng about this. He just arrived and his performance is still 0. Please take care of him. Feng Daqiao's face turned red. Being sabotaged in front of him by Ma Zhongjie, he could only force a smile. Chapter 50. The catering industry is a mixed world. Seeing Feng Daqiao's embarrassed expression, Ma Zhongjie did not forget to add, Mr. Chen wants to buy a house worth 50 million. If you help him find a suitable house, you will directly become the company's sales champion. Feng Daqiao smiled awkwardly and said to Marlin, Mr. Chen, ignore him. I will help you find a house carefully. Marlin nodded. The budget is within 50 million, at least 5 rooms, preferably in the center of the community, quiet and not noisy, in the middle of the floor without blocking the sunlight, and there are not many other requirements. Ma Zhongjie sneered in his heart. What a way to pretend to be a rich man. But on the surface, he continued to explain to Zhou Yumei and Yang Xingyu the handover matters of the court auction house in a serious manner. Walking out of the agency, Zhou Yumei exclaimed, Xiaoma is so enthusiastic. Marlin's phone rang, and a call came from an unfamiliar number. Hello, is this Mr. Chin? The other party said straight to the point. Are you collecting the dishes? Marlin immediately perked up. What restaurant? It's a Chinese restaurant. We have all the tables, chairs, benches, pots and pans, a refrigerator, and an oven. How much do you charge? Send me the address, and I'll go check it out this afternoon. After hanging up the phone, Merida asked jokingly, Are you really in this business? Marlin smiled and said, Of course, otherwise how can I earn money from milk powder? Then he looked at Yang Xingyu. Xiuyu, come with me and take a look and learn from me. Yang Xingyu was about to refuse, but Zhou Yumei threatened him with a glare. If you don't want to be kicked out of the house, take the initiative. Finally, Yang Xingyu reluctantly followed Marlin to Balong Plaza, a popular commercial street, and they went to the 3rd floor and met Lu Feng, the owner of the restaurant. Lu Feng was wearing a black suit. His eyes were tired. He said straight to the point, The owner of the cafe recommended me to contact you. I have tables and chairs, bowls and chopsticks, refrigerators and ovens. Please take a look. Marlin looked at the tableware and shook his head. I'm sorry, but the name of your restaurant is printed on the dishes. Itsantakithem. Lu Feng sighed. I specially asked someone to customize these. The quality is very good, and they are made of top-grade ceramics. Marlin still refused and turned to check the kitchen equipment. After some valuation, Marlin packed up all the still usable equipment, including tables and chairs, electrical appliances, and some kitchen utensils, and sold them for a total of 16,000 yuan. After the transaction was completed, Marlin called a truck and loaded all the items onto it. Lu Feng stood in the empty restaurant, watching the truck driving away, looking very sad. He sat on the ground, covered his face, and started crying. He spent countless efforts to open this store, from decoration to menu design. Every detail was carefully polished. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop the fate of bankruptcy. The truck delivered the items to Marlin's house. Yang Xingyu washed the dishes without saying a word and put the usable kitchen utensils in order. His expression seemed very heavy, and Lu Feng's failure obviously had a great impact on him. Have you noticed that the restaurants on the basement level of Powerlong Plaza are doing very well, but the big restaurants on the 3rd floor can't survive? Marlin asked. Nonsense, the basement is full of snacks. A bowl of noodles is only 20 yuan, and any dish on the 3rd floor is 30 yuan and upwards, and some are over 100 yuan. The economy is bad, consumption is downgraded, so of course the cheap ones will survive. Yang Xingyu replied. So, the first step for catering is to survive. Yang Xingyu was silent for a moment and muttered in a low voice. What's the point of surviving? I still have to make a lot of money. Marlin did not respond. He remembered that the meaning of surviving was completely different for him. Yang Xingyu was doing it for his career, while he was trying to live one more day. After returning home, Yang Xingyu was visibly dejected. As a chef, he began to doubt whether he could make a name for himself in the catering industry. Marlin was more rational. He knew that he needed a warehouse. Although the villa was spacious, it was not convenient to store so many things for a long time. He was ready to look for a suitable warehouse to prepare for the next acquisition plan. Chapter 51. None of the warehouses near Yinchang Road were suitable, so Marlin finally rented a small abandoned factory. The factory used to process food and was pollution-free, but the rent was not cheap, costing 6,000 yuan a month, which was about the same price as the villa he was renting now. After tidying up the factory a bit, Marlin moved all the tableware that was piling up at home over there, and the house suddenly became a lot more spacious. In the evening, he remembered that he hadn't called his father Chun Dadong for a long time, so he called him. As soon as Chun Dadong answered the phone, he said excitedly, Debeo, I bought a house. Houses in the county are really cheap, only more than 300,000 yuan, 150 square meters. In Shanghai, it would cost at least 3 million yuan, right? Marlin smiled and said, Is there enough money? That's enough. I've saved you yuan. Add the 1 million yuan you gave me, and I'll have 700,000 yuan left after buying the house. I can move in after renovating it by the end of the year. Will you come back for the spring festival? Marlon was silent for a moment, then said softly, No, I'll go back next year. That's fine. Let's come back and live in the new house next year. I knew Xiaoxue didn't like the countryside. This time we come back and live directly in the county town. It will be so comfortable. Chun Daedong's tone was full of pride. Hearing his father's voice, Marlon felt his nose a little sour. He hesitated for a moment and said, Dad, Xiaoxue is pregnant 2 months. What? Pregnant? Porquito? Chun Daedong was so excited that he spoke incoherently. Ha ha ha. I'm going to be a grandfather. My son is Ovisuma. We don't know the gender yet. It's only 2 months old. Marlon reminded helplessly. I have to send something for my grandson to eat, wait. Marlon hung up the phone with mixed feelings. He gave his mother-in-law the address of her home, and 3 days later, Zhou Yumei called him as expected. Marlon, I don't know who sent a bunch of stuff, hundreds of kilograms, and our house can't hold it anymore. The local specialties sent by my uncle's family included 200 kilograms of new rice, 100 eggs, 50 duck eggs and goose eggs, as well as smoked pork legs and wild rabbit meat. The kitchen was packed to the brim. At noon, Zhou Yumei steamed rice with rice from her hometown and topped the rice with sliced bacon. The aroma filled the entire corridor. Xiaoxue, eat less bacon, it's not healthy. Xiaoyu, eat more. Zhou Yumei said with concern. Merida stared at the bacon, but could only eat more vegetables. For the first time, Yang Xingyu felt that his status at home had been improved. Marlon excitedly. The property certificate has been issued. Everything is going well. Marlon opened it and saw Yang Xingyu's name written on it. Xiaoyu contributed 200,000 yuan, and Xiaoxue and I contributed part of the rest. Zhou Yumei said in a low voice, sounding a little guilty. Merida added, Marlon, Yang Air couldn't get a loan, and my mom is old, so I borrowed money to buy the house in full. It's okay. Marlon smiled faintly. Just remember to confirm it when you hand over the house. Zhou Yumei breathed a sigh of relief and put away the property certificate. Yang Xingyu scratched his head and muttered quietly. Brother-in-law is not angry, right? After all, he earned the money. He still felt a little guilty about using his brother-in-law's money. Yang Xingyu, who successfully relied on his parents and sister, secretly made up his mind to make money to repay his brother-in-law in the future. Marlon called his uncle to express his gratitude. His uncle said proudly, We are a family. Why should we be polite? I'm going to be a great uncle soon, and I am very happy. Your cousin is really disappointing. He doesn't even have a girlfriend yet. On the other end of the phone, the uncle was both happy and angry, and he even praised his little daughter's grades. Shulan ranked in the top 10 in the school in this monthly exam. Isn't that amazing? Finally, he changed his tone. Marlon, I heard that Danny got into trouble. His wife sued him for bigamy, and he has been arrested. Marlon replied casually, It's not that I'm good, it's that he's dirty. Ha, you have been humble since you were young, just like your uncle. Uncle praised happily. Marlon hung up the phone, feeling surprisingly good. He realized that communicating more with family members really made life more warm. Chapter 52. Marlon's phone rang again, a strange number. He wondered, is it another restaurant that is closed down? Hello, who is this? Marlon asked politely. An enthusiastic voice came from the other end of the line. Marlon, I'm your great cousin Guoxiang. Guoxiang's great uncle? Marlon was stunned for half a second before he remembered the existence of this distant relative. The other party introduced himself. Your uncle said that you are very powerful now, and people like Danny are afraid of you. Uncle, I won't waste any more words. Help rescue someone. Rescue? Marlon frowned. What do you mean? It's Go Wa. He's been arrested. You know, the police stations in the countryside are shady, and they arrest people at will. We want to buy a house in the county town, and we have to put Go Wa's name on it, but he can't sign it now. What did he do wrong? Marlon felt something was wrong. What else could it be? He was drunk and killed someone. It wasn't intentional, but he was arrested for such a small thing. Zhang Guoxiang said righteously. Marlon was stunned, almost thinking he was dreaming. He took a deep breath and calmed down. Uncle, this is not a small matter. I really don't have the ability to save him. If college students are so great. What a boast. Zhang Guoxiang cursed angrily and hung up the phone. Marlon stood there, at a loss for a moment, and blocked the other party's number. He suddenly felt that keeping a distance from some distant relatives might not be a bad thing. The next day, Marlon chose to take the subway to the hospital to reduce the chance of smoking while driving. He carried the huge thermos cup with mixed feelings. After receiving the examination report, he nervously handed it to the attending doctor. The doctor took a look at the report and frowned. "Hey, this is quite interesting." Marlon's heart instantly rose to his throat. "Doctor, is there any problem?" The doctor pushed up his glasses, flipped through the report from 2 months ago, and said, "The spread of your cancer cells is abnormally slow." "What exactly is going on?" "According to previous reports, we estimated that the disease would spread to the entire lungs in about 6 months. But now it seems that the spread has been suppressed. At the current rate, it can last at least 2 years, or even 3 years. The doctor's tone revealed a hint of surprise. Marlon breathed a sigh of relief. At least, the first goal, surviving until the birth of the child, should be achievable. He instinctively reached for his pocket, wanting to light a cigarette to celebrate, but forced himself to hold back. "I can smoke no more than 33 cigarettes today," he reminded himself silently. With the medical report in hand, Marlon bought 2 bottles of good wine and prepared to visit Dr. Yi Qingchen. After the doctor prescribed Chinese medicine, his condition was actually relieved. He was very grateful to this eccentric but skilled old Chinese doctor. On the bus back, Marlon unexpectedly met his old enemy Gu Ming. "Lao Gu, aren't you going to see the doctor today?" Marlon took the initiative to greet him, feeling much better. When Gu Ming saw Marlon, veins popped out on his face. "Marlon, I will never give you my contact information even if I die." Marlon didn't bother to pay attention to Gu Ming's reaction and sat down to play with his phone. Gu Ming was uneasy, thinking, did Marlon install a bug on me? Thinking that Marlon was a programmer, Gu Ming suspected that he might have hacked his phone. He quickly took out his phone and pressed the power button for a long time, his face full of vigilance. On the other side, Marlon was contacting lawyer Nyo Gu Hong. "Lawyer Nyo, Grandma Gu's daughter wants to meet with me. Can I go?" Nyo Gu Hong replied, "Sure, but please pay attention to 2 points. First, prevent the other party from recording and do not make promises casually. Second, if you encounter any unclear questions, feel free to call me." After hanging up the phone, Marlon felt much more at ease. The good news from today's medical report, plus the fact that Grandma Gu's daughter took the initiative to contact him to discuss a settlement, made him feel more relaxed than ever before. "Looks like my luck is starting to improve," Marlon thought to himself as he prepared to go to the subway transfer station. Behind him, Gu Ming followed stealthily with a puzzled look on his face. Did this guy really not follow me? Did he install a bugging device? No, I have to ask Xiaoyu to help me check it out later. Chapter 53. Being accused of taking secret photos and being sent to the hospital. Yang Xingyu has been feeling a bit restless lately. He has always thought that he is a great cook and has won 3 cooking competitions. If he could open a restaurant, the queues of people would be endless. Men would wait until they were exhausted, and women would wait until they went through menopause. However, after collecting secondhand kitchenware from Marlon, he found that opening a restaurant was far from being as simple as he had imagined. Cooking skills were only one of many links. He realized that he had to find someone to cooperate with, so he began to think. My sister Merida can be in charge of finance, cashiering, and taking orders and serving dishes. My mother has a bad temper, but she is good at cutting vegetables, so she can be responsible for washing, cutting, and cleaning vegetables. My brother-in-law Marlon is responsible for purchasing. My girlfriend Dongdong is pretty, so she can just be beautiful. As for Yang Xingyu, of course he is responsible for cooking and spending money. He was excited about the plan when he saw Gu Xiaoyu and immediately included her in his plan. Gu Xiaoyu has been naughty since she was a child and has no femininity. She is just in charge of washing dishes and serving as a negative example. But after being frightened into shutting up by Gu Xiaoyu's scolding, Yang Xingyu closed the door and continued to fantasize about his restaurant empire. Gu Xiaoyu took several photos with Merida's cup and said excitedly, "This cup is really nice. It's a bit too expensive, but I want to buy one for my grandfather." She then called Gu Ming, but found that the phone was turned off. "It's not charged again. Is this old man really suffering from Alzheimer's?" Gu Xiaoyu muttered. At this time, Gu Ming was already on the subway. His white hair made him stand out, and someone soon offered him a seat. After he sat down, he caught a glimpse of Marlon standing and couldn't help wondering, is this guy really not following me? The subway is like a silent, roaring beast, swallowing up silent passengers. Marlon is standing, with a young woman in a low-cut dress sitting in front of him. Marlon's phone is out of battery, so he uses the cup in his bag to charge it with a charging cable. The battery capacity of this cup is comparable to that of a power bank, and the indicator light flashes intermittently. The flashing of the indicator light caught the woman's attention. She suspected someone was secretly filming and stared at Marlon for a few seconds. When the indicator light flashed again, she was furious. How shameless. You are secretly filming and using the flash. Marlon was confused and had no idea what she was talking about. The indicator light flashed again, and the woman snatched his phone away. I'll let you take a secret photo. Marlon finally reacted and explained. I didn't take any secret photos. It was the indicator light of the power bank that was flashing. The woman insisted. Let me check your phone. Marlon frowned and fought back bluntly. Have some common sense? Light travels in straight lines. How can I take a picture of you from this angle? You're so shameless that you start snatching my phone when you're caught stealing it. The woman was so angry that she screamed. You are a hooligan, taking secret photos. At this time, a young man with a strong sense of justice stood up and said, Dude, you think you are justified in secretly taking photos? Delete the photos and apologize to them. Marlon sneered. Are you blind? Didn't you see who snatched whose phone? Besides, I didn't take any secret photos. Why should I delete them? People around started recording the video. The woman refused to give in. The light flashed several times. It must be a sneak shot. Marlon asked back. Someone would use a flash to take a secret photo? Is there IQ online? Public opinion on the subway gradually leaned towards Marlon. The woman was angry and embarrassed, but the righteous young man was not willing to give up. If you didn't take any secret photos, then let everyone check your phone. Marlon sneered. I told you that you are a murderer, and the murder weapon is hidden in this woman's underwear. Do you want to take off her clothes and check? The young man was so angry that his face turned red, and he tried to grab Marlon's phone. Marlon pushed him gently, but the young man shouted, Did you see it? He started, and then he raised his fist and hit him. Marlon fell to the ground, and the test reports were scattered all over the floor. Someone glanced at the report and exclaimed, Advanced lung cancer? The young man turned pale with fear. Misunderstanding. Big brother, wake up. At this time, the subway arrived at the station, and the woman ran off the train like a cat, disappearing without a trace. The young man was panicked. Hey, why are you running? At the next stop, the train police arrived, sent Marlon to the hospital, and took the young man to take a statement. In the hospital, after Marlon woke up, the first thing he said was, Where's my bag? There are medical reports in it, don't lose it. The police officer handed over the phone and explained, The report and the phone are both here. Marlon asked to check the phone, and the police confirmed that there was no secretly filmed content on the phone. Marlon asked quietly, Will the person who slandered me be sentenced? The policeman shook his head. Not really, but we can file a civil lawsuit and demand compensation for emotional damages. Chapter 54. Mother-in-law and ex-wife come to the villa to see Marlon. The optimized content is as follows. Thank you. Marlon nodded and thanked him, keeping a calm face but feeling a little complicated in his heart. The husband nearby asked the police, Excuse me, what should we do with my son's case? Mr. Chen's injuries don't seem to be serious. The police patiently explained. The civil lawsuit I just mentioned is what Mr. Chen can file against Ms. Shang, who falsely accused him. And your son beat Mr. Chen into shock, which is a very serious act and may involve criminal liability, unless Mr. Chen voluntarily gives up the pursuit. Hearing this, the husband quickly turned to Marlon. Mr. Chen, your attitude is... I want to go home. Marlon interrupted, his tone calm. Although he was angry at the woman who slandered him, the woman had already escaped without a trace, so he naturally didn't want to continue staying in the hospital. Mr. Chen, let's take you back. The husband said sincerely, and his wife echoed him. Yes, it's too unsafe for you to go back alone. Marlon shook his head and refused. Don't bother. I can go back by myself. The husband handed over a business card. Mr. Chen, this is my business card. If you need anything, please feel free to contact me. I suggest you get a comprehensive physical examination as soon as possible, and we will cover all the expenses. The name card only had the 3 characters Manhwa on it, no title. His wife also apologized carefully. I'm so sorry, my son was too impulsive. We didn't discipline him well. Marlon took the business card, responded casually, rejected the other party's repeated requests to stay, and left the hospital alone. On the way home, he kept thinking about the couple's words. He felt that their attitude was quite sincere, but the child was too impulsive, which might be a problem of family education. Thinking of this, he sighed secretly. If I live longer, I will definitely not educate my child like them after he is born. However, he immediately thought that he might not have a future, and his mood suddenly became depressed. That evening, Merida called, her voice full of anxiety. Marlon, how are you? Are you seriously injured? It's okay. Just a minor injury. Marlon replied calmly. How could you be okay? Gu Xiaoyu said her grandfather saw you being beaten unconscious on the subway. The video was posted online. It looked really scary. Marlon smiled helplessly. It's not that exaggerated. I just pretended to faint to scare them. Don't worry. Go to bed early. Where do you live? I'm coming to see. It's too far. It's on Yinchang Road. Traffic is inconvenient at night. Even the street lights are sparse. Don't come over here. Merida was silent for a while, then reminded him. Okay, take care of yourself. I've already had someone deal with those videos online. Go to bed early and don't stay up late. The two said goodnight to each other and hung up the phone. Marlon looked out the window, and a sweet feeling welled up in his heart. After the divorce, their relationship was closer than before marriage, as if they were in love again. After taking a shower, Marlon lay on the bed and smiled unconsciously. Merida still cares about me. The next day, Marlon got up early, went for a run, took medicine, and went shopping, living a new day as planned. When he was at the market, an aunt glanced at him and said casually, A grown man comes to buy vegetables so early, it seems no one cares about him. Marlon responded, Aunt, your lover is meant to be loved. How can you let your wife do such a hard job as buying groceries in the morning? He paused and deliberately asked, Aunt, you come to buy groceries so early. My uncle must still be asleep at home, right? Aunt, you really know how to love people. Annie's face turned pale, and she turned away and ignored him. Women tend to age easily when no one loves them. Annie, be careful and don't get stuck with wrinkles when using a facial mask. Marlon added out of the blue, making the Annie so angry that she lost the mood to buy groceries. Marlon returned to the villa. He was surprised to see Merida and Zhou Yumei already standing at the door waiting for him. Why are you here? Marlon asked as he opened the door. Yang Er knew you lived here, so he told us. Zhou Yumei said as she looked at Marlon's face. Seeing that his face was still a little red and swollen, she couldn't help but feel distressed. It's really infuriating to have such a swollen face. Merida also felt bad. The person I didn't want to hit was beaten by someone else. At noon, Zhou Yumei cooked a sumptuous lunch and forced Merida to eat more. After dinner, Marlon took the mother and daughter to the forest park for a walk. The place is full of lush flowers and plants, with gurgling streams, and is known as a natural oxygen bar. Merida exclaimed as she walked. This place is really suitable for pregnancy. During the walk, Marlon sneaked into the bathroom and smoked 2 cigarettes. Then he felt a little relieved. When he came out, Merida caught him with one sniff. Both mother and daughter were disgusted. Don't bring the smell of cigarettes to the fetus. Marlon smiled helplessly, kept a distance of 3 meters, and followed them. The phone suddenly rang, and he picked it up. Hello? Who is this? A deep voice came from the other end of the phone. Mr. Chun, this is Manhwaedit. Chapter 55, Subway Secret Photography Incident. Finished dealing with Manhwaedit? Marlon couldn't figure out who it was. How is Mr. Chun? Are you feeling better? Has the swelling on your face gone down? Marlon then realized that this was the Manhwaedit on his business card yesterday. It's no big deal. I'll tell the police to drop the charges and let your son go. Marlon looked at Merida's back and remembered what he said about doing good deeds for the child. The kid named Manhwaedit was not a bad guy. He was a passionate young man, easily impulsive and a bit brave. Marlon didn't want to argue with him. How about I come pick you up? Marlon gave his home address. After hanging up the phone, Marlon told the police that Manhwaedit was coming to pick him up to go to the police station to sign the settlement agreement. Zhou Yumei was very unhappy. What kind of settlement agreement should you sign? The person who hit you should go to jail. If not, at least he should pay compensation. What kind of thing is this? It's not against the law to hit someone, so you can hit them as you like. In less than a minute, Manhwaedit's car appeared downstairs of Marlon's building. Seeing Marlon living in a villa, Manhwaedit felt relieved. It is unlikely that someone who lives in a villa will be cheated out of his money. Most people think in a way that looks down on others and judges them by their appearance, and Manhwaedit is no exception. Manhwaedit took a few bottles of matai, a box of imported cherries, and some bone-strengthening and kidney-tonifying medicines. They're all tonics, but actually they're of no use. They're just for collecting IQ taxes. The packaging looks good, so they're more suitable as gifts. The gifts together are estimated to be worth 20,000 to 30,000 yuan. Marlon didn't ask for a gift. Zhou Yumei criticized Manhwa harshly. I will never forgive you for bullying our Marlon. Manhwa forcefully placed the gift at Marlon's house. Mr. Chun, I'm so sorry. It's just a small gift. Marlon said, I don't drink. I don't really need to. Merida saw the wine. Her eyes lit up and her mouth almost watered. Ever since she found out she was pregnant, Zhou Yumei kept a close eye on her like a prisoner, not giving her any chance to drink. Zhou Yumei didn't treat Manhwa well. Do you think our family can't afford alcohol? You beat someone up and seriously injured him, and you want to reconcile with 2 bottles of wine? Marlon was afraid that his mother-in-law would say something that would embarrass Manhwa even more, so he said, Mr. Ma, let's go. The police station closes early. Manhwa had learned how talkative elementary school teachers were, so he hid in the car, waited for Marlon to sit down, started the car immediately, and quickly escaped from Zhou Yumei's influence. My ex-mother-in-law talks a lot, Mr. Ma. Don't take her too seriously, said Marlon. Your mother-in-law is still very powerful, Manhwa said cautiously. He remembered that Marlon said yesterday that he was divorced and didn't need to inform anyone. Manhwa suspected that the reason for Marlon's divorce was because his mother-in-law was too strong, and his sympathy for Marlon increased. When he arrived at the police station, Marlon found that the woman who had framed him was also there. Modern investigative techniques are really powerful. Through facial recognition, it was easy to catch people. Marlon sincerely, Police, you have seen it. This is a matter between them. It has nothing to do with me. They have also apologized. I am simply an innocent victim. The woman who framed Marlon was called Shang Yu. When she saw Ma Huadeng apologize, she immediately distanced herself from the matter, as if the incident was not caused by her. I accept your apology. Let's just leave it at that. Marlon ignored Shang Yu. He picked up the standard settlement agreement and signed his name and date. This was the second time he signed it. The last time was with Mr. Zhang, who smashed his car. It felt very familiar. Seeing that Marlon had forgiven even the person who beat him, Shang Yun felt relieved and asked the police, "Can I go now?" The police asked Marlon, "What do you want?" If this woman just misunderstood him for secretly taking photos, he would not feel anything. But this woman kept shirking responsibility as if nothing had happened. This made Marlon very upset. "Apologize and compensate me for my mental damage," Marlon said. "He knocked you unconscious, and instead of asking him for compensation, you asked me for compensation. Are you sick? I think you were a lesbian." The woman was furious and spoke without thinking, as if she had suffered a serious injustice. Ma Huateng was so angry that his face turned red. The woman he protected on the subway turned out to be this kind of person. He was very regretful at this moment and wanted to drag this woman out and beat her up. "You don't want to apologize, right? I won't accept your apology. Yesterday, you suspected me of taking secret photos, and I also suspected you of taking secret photos. Please hand your phone over to the police." Marlon was too lazy to waste time. His time was precious. The woman was obviously stunned. "I took a secret photo? Are you crazy? Would I take a secret photo? Whether it was a secret video or not, you should either show your phone to the police or show it to me. It will be clear at a glance." The woman took out her cell phone and wanted to delete something. "The police are here, and she's trying to remove evidence," Marlon said. The police reminded, "Ms. Shang, there are surveillance cameras here. It's useless for you to delete the evidence. My phone has personal privacy. Why should I show it to you?" The woman put away her phone. "Didn't you want to snatch my phone to check it yesterday? Why don't you dare to do it when it's your turn?" The woman sneered twice to show her disdain. "Are you a man? I, a woman, can't see what's wrong with your phone unless there is something shameful on your phone." Marlon didn't bother to pay attention to this hypocritical woman. He directly told the police, "If Ms. Shang doesn't cooperate, we will take legal action. I will sue. Just go. Who's afraid of who?" Shang Yu said in a rude manner. The police were all irritated by this woman. "Ms. Shang, let me remind you, you said Mr. Chun took secret photos. We collected evidence yesterday and found no secret photos. You are likely guilty of defamation. If the circumstances are not serious, you will be detained for not less than 5 days but not more than 10 days, and may be fined not more than 500 yuan. If the circumstances are serious, you will be convicted of defamation and sentenced to not more than 3 years in prison, criminal detention, controlled release, or deprivation of political rights." Shang Yun was shocked. "I am a woman. How could I slander you? Defamation has nothing to do with gender. Men and women are equal." Shang Ian obviously didn't know much about the law, but she was really scared, so she immediately changed her expression and said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Chun, I misunderstood you. If you had apologized 10 minutes ago, I would have accepted it. Now I don't accept the apology, and you must show your phone to the police," Marlon said in a cold tone. Shang Iyun hesitated for a while, then handed the phone to the female police officer next to her. "Male police officers, don't look at it." It took the policewoman 2 minutes to find 7 photos with Marlon's head in the picture. "Ms. Shang, these photos show that it was you who secretly took photos of Mr. Chen," said the policewoman. "How could I take secret photos? I am a woman, and I took them openly. Secret photos are taken secretly. At least I don't have common sense. Did Mr. Chen know when you were filming? How could I let him know? I was keeping evidence." Shang Yu shut up immediately after saying this. The police exported the photos and recorded the time they were taken, because the time the photo file was created is the time it was taken. "Ms. Shang, there is solid evidence that you took photos of Mr. Chen secretly, but you did not use them for illegal purposes, nor did you take photos of Mr. Chen's sensitive parts. This is not a crime. However, there is solid evidence that you slandered Mr. Chen. As a police officer, I suggest that you sincerely apologize to Mr. Chen." The female police officer decided to help Shang Yu for the last time. Shang Yu cried. All the evidence was against her. Finally, under the coordination of the police, Shang Yun gave Marlon $2,000 and Marlon accepted the settlement. Marlon left the police station. He felt inexplicably relaxed. It's not because he won, but because he found that he was much calmer and not so extreme in doing things. He was more forgiving when possible. Many times, reconciling with yourself is the true way to let go. There is no perfect world. We are all ordinary people, and we all make mistakes. They are not essential problems and can be overcome if possible. The police felt that the ending was good and the matter was completely settled. The only one who was unhappy was Shang Yu. She returned home and became angrier the more she thought about it. "Why? The person who hit me didn't have to pay a penny, just a little talk. I apologized and gave 2,000 yuan. It's so unfair. This unfair society must be corrected, and the weak lives must be allowed to speak out." The little fairy Shang Yu began to shout on the internet. Chapter 56. The condition has improved. She wrote indignantly. A weak woman, working hard to get off work every day, squeezing into the subway, being controlled by her boss, living a hard and humble life, just wanting a little bit of happiness, but this happiness was also broken. On the subway, a man looked down at her with his phone, and the camera pointed at her chest. She politely told him not to do that, but he ignored her. She suspected he was secretly photographed. Of course, it turned out that he was not secretly photographed. But the bad guy raised a knife and stabbed the good person. Is it a crime? In this world, must the blood of the weak be used to awaken a little conscience? Shang Yu also specifically emphasized that she did nothing to cause the camera to be secretly photographed. Although the camera was not successfully taken, the police still interrogated her and forced her to apologize, plus a settlement fee of 2,000 yuan. As for the other person who got into a fight, the police did not say anything and allowed the two parties to reconcile. Shang Yu cried out loudly. "What kind of society is this? Should the weak be trampled upon?" After finishing it, I corrected the errors caused by the pinyin input method, attached Marlon's photo, and sent it out, and also mentioned several big names, such as the famous singer Baek Na-young, environmental actor Yao Chung, toothpick master, a frequent headline guest, etc. 2 hours after posting it, Shang Yu kept checking Weibo. There was no reaction, no likes or comments. It seems that ordinary sounds are still difficult for others to hear. Shang Yu went to search for relevant videos. She remembered that someone was recording the video at that time, and she didn't believe that the person who recorded the video would not post it online. Sure enough, she found it. She reposted the video on her Weibo account and added a message. "I am the woman who was secretly photographed. As a woman, I can only cry. I hope that women will take good care of themselves when they go out. We will never tolerate perverted secret photographers. In the face of injustice, I will fight to the end." That day, she forwarded the message hundreds of times before going to bed in anger. She woke up several times in the middle of the night and found that few people paid attention to her. No comments, no likes, nothing. It took Marlon more than 4 hours to get from home to the police station and back home. During the few hours when she was away from home, Zhou Yumei rummaged through the drawers and almost turned Marlon's house upside down. She was looking for condoms and feminine products. After failing to find a condom, Zhou Yumei felt relieved. Marlon is not cheating. Xiao Xue, you were wrong before. You should treat Marlon well in the future. Merida rolled her eyes. That wimp is as timid as a mouse. If he really wants to find a mistress, I would like it even more. No, I'm used to it. I will never call him a wimp again. You need to change your mouth. Who always calls your man a loser? Only useless women look for loser men. This place is really good. I wonder how Marlon found it. Zhou Yumei didn't want to go back to the city. It was almost 9 o'clock in the evening when Marlon got home. In the suburbs, living is comfortable, but transportation is inconvenient. Zhou Yumei and Merida did not leave. Zhou Yumei cooked the soup and forced most of it into Merida's mouth, leaving a small portion for Marlon. Mom, don't leave any food for me next time. I don't eat after 8 o'clock in the evening. Marlon said. Zhou Yumei saw the schedule Marlon had posted on the wall and said, digest it before going to sleep. Marlon went to brush his teeth, and Zhou Yumei started nagging again. Marlon, you put your underwear and socks in the washing machine without hanging them up. You have to wash them by hand from now on, okay? Marlon was full of black lines on his face. I know. I'll go wash my hands now. Go brush your teeth. I'll help you. Zhou Yumei said. Marlon blushed, feeling that he was too sloppy. The bedroom is connected to the bathroom. Marlon went to the bathroom to take a shower. After he finished, he returned to the bedroom without wearing anything. Merida looked at Marlon's figure and began to comment. You seem to have some pectoral muscles and a smaller belly. Have you been working out recently? Yes, I exercise every day, but I haven't lost any weight, but I have lost some fat. They both saw desire in each other's eyes. The bang, 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 knocking sound on the door was very inappropriate, and it was very annoying. It's my mother-in-law, Zhou Yumei. Marlon quickly found a pair of shorts and short-sleeved shirts and put them on, then reluctantly opened the door. Marlon, there are 2 bedrooms downstairs. You can sleep downstairs. Zhou Yumei said. There aren't any extra blankets. Marlon was still making a final struggle. It's summer. Just cover your belly with a piece of clothing. Zhou Yumei extinguished Marlon's last glimmer of hope. Under the gaze of his mother-in-law, he obediently went downstairs to sleep. Zhou Yumei began to scold Merida. During the first 3 months of pregnancy, the placenta is not implanted stably, so you can't have sex. Merida was angry and ignored everyone. She lay on the bed with a pillow in her arms, pretending to watch TV. This villa has 5 bedrooms, a loft on the 3rd floor, and 2 small rooms. It can accommodate more people. Wait another month, and you can move in. We'll go back to the city tomorrow. Zhou Yumei said. No. Merida wanted to fight against her evil mother, but ended up being defeated and went to sleep quietly. Marlon overslept that day. Because he couldn't fall asleep for a long time, his head stayed upright for a long time without lowering it, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. I was woken up by Zhou Yumei the next morning. When I woke up, I found breakfast already on the table. Mom, Xiaoxue, I forgot to tell you. I went to the 6th hospital for a checkup a few days ago. My condition is still slowly worsening and the cancer cells are spreading, but it's slower than originally expected. Marlon said while eating. The atmosphere was originally quite good, but after Marlon said that, everyone felt a little more stressed. I'll show the report to Dr. Yi later. Marlon felt that he should show it to the doctor and let Yi Qingqin make the judgment. You should give all the gifts that man gave you yesterday to Dr. Yi, especially the wine. You must not keep it at home. Someone might want to drink it secretly in the middle of the night. Zhou Yumei glared at Merida as she spoke. Mom, why are you looking at me? I've quit drinking. I don't trust you. The mother and daughter had a conflict last night, and it was about to break out again. If it were in the past, Zhou Yumei would have jumped up and started cursing. Her aggressive personality was never directed at her daughter, but at everyone. After breakfast, Marlon took away all the things that Manhwa had sent yesterday, gave them to Yi Qingqin, and then asked Yi Qingqin to read the report. Marlon, have you been living a regular life recently? The effect is much better than I expected. I thought it would take 5 months to achieve this effect. Yi Qingqin looked at the report and was very pleased. Is this a good thing? The doctor at the 6th hospital said, I could only live for 6 months at most, but now he says I can live for 2 to 3 years. Yi Yifan took Marlon's gift away calmly and put it in the next room. This state is called living with the disease. Cancer is very difficult to cure. If it could be maintained without getting worse for 50 or 60 years, wouldn't that be great? Yi Qingqin said. Yi Qingqin's words were like a ray of light, shining into Marlon's dark world and pointing out a new path. He has always been thinking about how to cure cancer. Every time he sees those cases online, he feels a deep sense of despair. Yes, so what if it can't be cured? It's okay to coexist with cancer for a long time, as long as it doesn't get worse. Marlon was thrilled. Yi Qingqin said, I will still come every 2 weeks in the future. By the way, take the things away. I don't want any gifts. Remember to pay for the medicine. I won't owe you anything." Marlin said, "Dr. Yi, I can't drink this wine or anything like that. It would be a waste to keep it at home. You can do whatever you want with it." Yi Yufan prepared the medicine for Marlin according to the prescription given by his grandfather, and then asked, "You really don't need those Matai liquors? I really don't drink, and I'm trying to quit smoking now, so I don't want cigarettes either." "Okay, then I won't be polite. The pocket money my grandfather gives me is too little, and it's not enough with my salary. I have a girlfriend, and I'm going to meet my future father-in-law, so those things are just right for me," Yi Yufan said obscenely. The two men laughed, with a tacit understanding. I returned home, carrying a large bag of medicine. Merida saw the huge bag of medicine and felt sympathy for herself and Marlin. Merida is forced to take a lot of food every day for the little life in her belly. Marlin was forced to take large amounts of medication every day for his own life and for the life in Merida's belly. All living beings are living hard for the so-called better future. Why is happiness always in the future and not in the present? Learning that Marlin's condition had not worsened, Merida began to think about these philosophical questions, and soon her little head became confused and a mess. "Forget it. Let me think about what to eat for lunch. Mom, for lunch, we'll have braised prawns, fried beef with green onions, and king crab. We'll get some other dishes as well." Merida began to order. She still hated her mom for what happened last night, so she deliberately prepared some difficult dishes for Zhou Yumei to cook. "Oh, cool." Zhou Yumei went to the vegetable market. "Lunch, boiled shrimp, rice, corn, and pork rib soup. What are you looking at? Do you think your lunch was too bad?" "It wasn't bad at all. It was nutritious enough," Zhou Yumei said, deliberately punishing her daughter. "Mom, I've been drinking pork ribs and corn soup for 3 days in a row. I'm starting to doubt whether I'm her biological child," said Merida. "You actually suspect your mother of having an affair. Do you want to piss me off to death?" Zhou Yumei glared at Merida. Chapter 57. Looking at the big house. Merida said, "When did I ever say you were cheating?" Zhou Yumei became even angrier. "Are you saying that your mother is too ugly and no one wants her even if she gives you money? A son will never dislike his mother's ugliness, and a dog will never dislike his family's poverty. How dare you say such a thing?" Merida wanted to bang her head against the wall. "You think I'm worse than a dog?" Marlin didn't want to interrupt, so he played deaf and dumb, pretending that he heard nothing and buried his head in eating. Manhwa's phone call saved Marlin. "Mr. Marlin, I don't know if you believe in Chinese medicine." Marlin took the opportunity to answer the phone to escape the mother-daughter battlefield and went to the balcony to answer the phone. "I believe it. What's wrong?" "I have a distant relative who is an old Chinese doctor. He never advertises, and not many people know him. He lives not far from you. You can ask him to try your treatment. Don't worry about the medical expenses. I'll pay for it." Marlin was a little curious. "What's his name? Where is the clinic?" "His name is Yi Qingxin, and his clinic is on Yanchang Road. I don't remember the exact number. If you're willing, I can take you directly to his home." Marlin smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Ma. I am now Mr. Yi Qingxin's patient. I just want to get the medicine today." Ma Huayun's surprised voice came from the phone. "What a coincidence. I said I would contact my uncle first and then tell you, but I was afraid that you didn't believe in Chinese medicine, so I asked you about your attitude first." "Dr. Yi is a very skilled doctor, and my disease is under control," said Marlin. The two of them chatted happily, and both felt that the other was a nice person. After the chat, I found that Merida was sulking and Zhou Yumei was losing her temper. "What's going on with the two ladies?" Marlin asked jokingly. "Your wife is too difficult to please. She won't eat the food she cooks. I don't give a fuck. You can do whatever you want." Zhou Yumei took off her apron and, at the same time, her primary school teacher's mask, revealing her true nature as a shrewish old aunt. "Who told you to control me? You control me too much. I'm 26 years old, and I'm still like a child. I don't have any freedom at all." Merida turned her head away from her mother and looked at an ordinary tree outside the window. Marlin had to persuade both sides. First, I criticized Merida, saying that my mother worked hard and I should be grateful. Then I started to eat the shrimp and drink the soup, saying that it tasted good and my mother's cooking skills were amazing, more professional than Yang Xingyu. Finally, I bought some prawns and beef and made braised prawns and stir-fried beef with green onions. When the two women saw Marlin, a patient, coming to serve them, they finally felt guilty, stopped fighting, and stopped treating their home as a battlefield. There is no overnight hatred between mother and daughter. The two women reconciled as if they had never quarreled, and then told Marlon that they were going back to the city. Marlon suddenly felt reluctant. A home feels like home only when there is a woman, even though it may be noisy. Drive and take the two women back to my mother-in-law's house. The agent Feng Daqiao came to visit and said he had found a suitable house for Marlon. Marlon, do you really want to buy a house? Zhou Yumei asked. Buy it for Xiaoxue, said Marlon. Merida said, Marlon, the most important thing for us now is not to buy a house, but to take good care of your health. If you don't have a house, you can rent one. I just hope you are well. Nothing else matters. Merida knew that the family didn't have much money. After selling the house for $6 million and paying off the original loan of $1.5 million, there was only $4.5 million left, which they split equally. Marlon had more than $2 million, so if he wanted to buy a house, he would have to take out a loan and work hard to make money. Merida doesn't want Marlon to trade his life for money. Marlon really wanted to tell everyone about his winning the lottery, but he didn't know when to do it. Mr. Chen, when are you free to go and look at houses? Feng Daqiao asked. Marlon said, Now, Xiaoxue, you can go and have a look too. Women have an irrational obsession with houses. No matter whether they can afford it or not, they will just look at it first. Merida wanted to go with her to see it, so Zhou Yumei followed suit. I'm afraid you young people don't know how to buy a house, so I'll go and see so you don't get cheated. Feng Daqiao suppressed his laughter and said, Don't worry, Auntie. I never lie to anyone. Mr. Chun is also an old customer of ours. I sold his house to him. Feng Daqiao brought the three of them to Jinxiu Mansion. Jinxiu Housing is close to Zhou Yumei's residential area, only a 15-minute walk away. Jinxiu Housing is an upscale residential area here. The houses are exactly 10 years old, and it is considered a relatively new community in the city center. The house that Feng Daqiao showed them was a duplex structure. It had 2 floors with a staircase in the middle and a total area of 337 square meters. The house was located in the center of the community, not close to the roadside or high-voltage transformers, etc. The community had a very high greening rate. It can be said that it fully meets Marlon's requirements for the house. There is a reason why Feng Daqiao became the sales champion in his original store. With such a hardworking attitude, it is difficult for him not to succeed unless he has a very bad character. Of course, if he has a very bad character, it is easier for him to succeed. The room was very empty. Apart from the kitchen and bathroom, there was basically no furniture or even curtains. Feng Daqiao introduced the house to everyone in the room. There are 7 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms in total. The living room floor is marble, which looks grand. If children want to play on it, you can lay carpets. The bedroom floor is made of heavy ant wood, which is of very good quality and can be used for 30 years. The kitchen, bathroom, etc. are all world-famous brands. The landlord spent $1 million on the renovation. You only need to buy furniture and you can move in. Zhou Yumei was horrified and asked guiltily, How much is this house? The average price in this community is 120,000 yuan. This house is in the center of the community and is on the best floor. If the total area is not too large, the price can be sold for 150,000 yuan per square meter. If you really want it, the landlord said 40 million yuan, and each party can bear their own part of the tax and fees. It's lower than the average price. 40 million? That's too expensive. It would take me many years to sell myself for that much. Zhou Yumei spoke incoherently. I can also sell it and get a good price while I'm still young. Merida said with a smile. Neither the mother nor the daughter planned to buy it. They were just looking at it. I'm quite satisfied with the house and the price. Let's talk to the landlord, said Marlon. If you want to negotiate, according to the store's rules, you need to pay a 20,000 yuan intention deposit, and the full amount will be refunded if the negotiation fails, said Feng Daqiao. No problem. Let's go back to the store. Merida thought she was dreaming. She finally understood why the word dream was in her name. After paying a deposit of 20,000 yuan to the store, Feng Daqiao contacted the landlord, who was out of town and would be back next Wednesday, and asked if next Friday would be okay. No problem. Let's do it next Friday afternoon. I have plans in the morning, said Marlon. Half an hour after leaving the agency, Merida finally woke up from her dream. Marlon, did you sell your body? Where did you get the money? Selling organs is illegal. Let me tell you, get naked quickly, so I can check what you sold. I won the lottery. Okay. Marlon saw Merida turned into Yang sleepwalking, so he had to tell the truth. Gu Xiaoyu made a brilliant appearance. Merida, you are crazy, looking at your husband with lustful eyes. What do you want to do? I heard your lustful laughter downstairs. It's broad daylight now. Can't you hold back? Gu Xiaoyu, it's you who led our Merida astray. Zhou Yumei didn't like Gu Xiaoyu. She felt that Gu Xiaoyu had a bit of a bandit-like air. And Zhou, I'm here to find Lao Yang to attend a class reunion. Sam Tang has returned from abroad and said he wants to treat everyone to a meal at the revolving restaurant. And he wants all of us classmates to go. Gu Xiaoyu didn't expect Zhou Yumei to be there too. Her face turned red, and she immediately changed the subject. Zhou Yumei frowned. What is trixylitol? I still have triphosphorus triadenosine. Anna, you also know Sam Tang, that is Tang Dequan. His whole family has immigrated. He once chased Xiao Xue, but you beat him away with a stick. Have you forgotten? Gu Xiaoyu said. That little rascal. I would recognize him even if he turned into ashes. Xiao Xue, you are not allowed to attend the class reunion. There are no good people there. Chapter 58 Problems with Yang Xingyu's house. I want to go. I have to go. Merida insisted on going. If you go, I'll break your legs. If you break my legs, I'll have an abortion. You want to piss me off to death. Zhou Yumei was furious when she heard her daughter was going to have an abortion. She regretted not having an abortion when she was pregnant with Merida. Gu Xiaoyu has long been accustomed to the daily duels between this weird mother and daughter. She calmly explained to Marlin, Sam Tang was our junior high school classmate. After graduating from junior high school, we went to different schools. Sam Tang pursued Lao Yang. Lao Yang was uglier than he is now. Sam Tang was blind and fell in love with Lao Yang. Both parents thought that the other's children were extremely bad and not worthy of their own children. It ended before it even started. Don't worry, I won't cheat on you. Merida was angry. Gu Xiaoyu, when have I ever looked ugly? Marlin said, Mom, if Xiao Xue wants to go to the class reunion, let her go. No drinking. Zhou Yumei thought she couldn't stop her, so she had to settle for the next best thing. Knowing her daughter's character, she gave her a heads up in advance. Where is Yang Heir in your family? Gu Xiaoyu asked. Yes, where is Yang Xingyu? He might have hooked up with his girlfriend. Merida then remembered that she had a younger brother. Xiaoyu is going to collect the house today. The house he bought at the court auction will be handed over today. Zhou Yumei said. Merida wanted to call Yang Xingyu, but her mother snatched the phone away. The radiation is too high. I'll call. When I got through the phone, a female voice came in. Hello, this is Xiaoyu's girlfriend Dongdong. We are here at the house, but the other party doesn't want to move out. Xiaoyu is arguing with the original landlord, and the police are here too. Zhou Yumei was anxious. Is he okay? Did you do anything? We didn't fight. There were 4 of them in the family, and we couldn't beat them. Xiaoyu wanted to call for help, so I snatched his phone and called the police. Good job, Dongdong. We'll be there right away. Zhou Yumei praised her future daughter-in-law and rushed to the crime scene with Marlin and Gu Xiaoyu. Merida was forced by her mother to stay at home to watch the house. After her mother left, Merida laughed wildly, picked up her mobile phone, and quickly ordered unhealthy food such as grilled chicken wings, grilled lamb kebabs, beef kebabs, etc. Life is precious, kebabs are not expensive, and takeout is very convenient. Merida hoped that the noise over there would last a little longer so that her mother could come back later. Marlin had long been worried that there would be problems with the court sale of the house. Only when you become a deadbeat will your property be forced to be auctioned. There were a lot of people at the scene, including 2 police cars, people from the court, and the agent Ma Zhongjie. Yang Xingyu's face was flushed, and a girl next to him who was about the same age as Yang Xingyu kept persuading Yang Xingyu. The girl was wearing jeans and a ponytail, looking clean and fresh. Xiaoyu, introduce yourself to Mom. When Zhou Yumei saw the girl next to her son, she immediately forgot why she was here. Mom, it's already this time, and you're still introducing me. How annoying. Yang Xingyu was in a bad mood. Hello, Aunshi. I'm Dong Dong Dong, Xiaoyu's girlfriend. Dong 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 took the initiative to introduce herself. It can be seen that she is a generous girl. Zhou Yumei was confused when she heard the name. Dong Dong Dong? Is this beating gongs and drums? Do parents know how to name a child? This is definitely not their biological child. Yang Xingyu introduced them to everyone in a bad mood. This is my girlfriend, Dong Dong. This is my mother. She is also my family member. As long as I get close to her, she will immediately assign tasks such as washing dishes, folding quilts, mopping the floor, and going out to buy some noodles. Zhou Yumei slapped him, interrupting Yang Xingyu's introduction. Yang Xingyu chose the next one. This is my brother-in-law. He is a coward and was bullied by my sister and my mother. He is ruthless and doesn't talk much. His only advantage is that he is obedient. After the green smoke came out of my family's ancestral grave, my sister was finally able to marry such a good husband. You will know when you see my sister later. That woman is a butcher. Sun Yang is her prototype. Marlin wanted to kick Yang Xingyu to death. Yang Xingyu introduced Gu Xiaoyu. This is my sister's best friend, Gu Xiaoyu. She is the same as my sister and is corrupt. Through Sister Xiaoyu, you can see what a female devil is. Gu Xiaoyu yelled, Yang Heir, we are here to help you get your house back. You'd better shut up. Yang Xingyu shut his mouth. Dong 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 said, the second time smoke came out of your house, I showed up. Marlin was sure that Dong 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 was also a good match for Yang Heir. Hello, Dong'er. Marlin greeted him. Now that the introduction is over, let's get down to business. Yang Xingyu was afraid that his mother would turn a small matter into a big one, and then the matter would get out of control. So he asked Marlin to handle it and let his mother watch from the side. Marlin went to ask about the situation. The former landlord said, we are law-abiding citizens. My wife, my parents, and I live at home. We have not offended anyone. Suddenly you sold my house and forced me to move out. Isn't this killing me? In modern society, there are still such things that leave people no way to survive. Is this reasonable? Marlin asked the court staff. Why are you auctioning? The court staff said, the homeowner has not repaid the debt, so we are auctioning off the assets under his name in accordance with the law. This is legal and compliant. Now that we have bought the house, the other party won't leave. What should we do? This matter should be left to the police. It is not within our scope of responsibility. Marlin asked the policeman next to him, Comrade Police, how do you deal with this? One of the 4 police officers said, we received a report and found it was a property rights dispute. We police are not responsible for property rights disputes. You can ask the Real Estate Transaction Center to solve it. Marlin asked the agent Ma Zhongjie, what's going on with you? Ma Zhongjie felt very aggrieved. We are real estate agents. We only help customers complete transactions and assist in handling formalities. I have no power or influence. I am just an agent for the court auction. Marlin looked around and said, so, this problem can't be solved? It can be solved. You can apply for checkout or compulsory execution. However, I would like to remind you that a 5% handling fee may be deducted for checkout. If it is compulsory execution, it will probably take a longer time, and you may encounter the situation where the former landlord refuses to leave. The court staff was very conscientious and explained the pros and cons clearly. Marlin smiled. We are definitely not checking out and we are moving in right away, so I will take care of it myself. The police asked, how do you solve it? If you can't solve the problem, solve the person who created it. That's easy. No one understands what Marlin is doing. Marlin said calmly, I'm a terminal cancer patient. 2 months ago, the 6th hospital gave me the conclusion that I would live for a maximum of 6 months. Now 2 months have passed, and I have less than 4 months left. Before I die, I will solve the housing problem. By the way, I will consult with my colleagues at the court. If you kill someone, how long does it usually take from being arrested to being sentenced to death? The former landlord was anxious. Comrade Police, this lunatic is threatening me. Arrest him quickly. He wants to kill someone. Marlin smiled gently. How long will it take? The court staff was also frightened by Marlin's smile. It depends on the situation. If we don't file a lawsuit, it will probably take 2 months. But the court is very busy, and it will take a long time from filing a case to investigating. If the other party hires a lawyer, the lawsuit will probably take half a year. In the end, it will probably take about 10 months. Marlin said with satisfaction, that's enough. Thank you. Chapter 59. Former landlord refuses to move out. The police officer asked, what is enough? I only have 4 months to live. If I kill someone, I will be sentenced to 10 months, which is enough for me to live. The former landlord shouted, how dare you? After saying that, he pounced on Marlin, ready to strike first. The 4 policemen next to them are not vegetarians. The former landlord was grabbed on the spot by several pairs of strong hands. After calming down, he realized that he had been tricked by Marlin. Yang Heir, Dong Heir, and Gu Xiaoyu all looked at Marlin in admiration. This guy made the former landlord break down with just a few words. Awesome. I'll go buy something and be back soon, Marlin said. Marlin went out. The police didn't dare to leave easily. Who knows what weapon Marlin bought? The former landlord asked with a guilty conscience. What did he want to buy? He wasn't going to buy a knife to kill someone, was he? You are the police. The murderer is right in front of you. Why don't you arrest him? Oh no, you did. You arrested the criminal? Why did you arrest me? The police calmly said, "He will be considered a murderer only if he kills you. When he kills you, we will make sure to arrest him." The former landlord and his wife were looking for something in the room and wanted to use a kitchen knife to defend themselves, but were stopped by the police again. The knife was confiscated immediately. The former landlord's mother rolled on the ground. "He's been murdered, he's been murdered. I'm 70 years old. I won't live any longer." The former landlord's father cried, "It's so unjust. The police are ganging up to bully people." "Who killed you?" the policeman asked. "The man just now pushed my mother to the ground and ran away. You police officers, go and catch him." "If you don't catch him, I will call the police," said the former landlord. The police said, "We have always kept the body cameras on. Call the police. We are the ones who respond to the call. We are handling 2 calls at once. You're just trying to earn us a lot of money." The former landlord angrily denounced the bad police. "How can you protect bad guys? You are in the same group. If the police and the criminals collude, this country will be finished." Zhou Yumei finally found an opportunity to show her ability. "The country will not end. As long as we train the next generation well, I am full of hope for the country and the future." The police were stunned, and so was the landlord. "What topic is this about? Is it related to the current delivery?" Primary school teacher Zhou Yumei continued. "Wash your hands frequently. Change your clothes frequently. Do morning exercises every day. Don't run around during breaks. Stay quiet during flag raising. Care about your classmates. Care about the collective. Study hard. And make progress every day. Start with me. Start now." Dong Er lowered his voice and whispered in Yang Er's ear, "Your mother is not crazy. I can't help laughing." "Ha ha ha." Gu Xiaoyu couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into laughter. "You know shit. My mother is strategically stalling for time to buy time for my brother-in-law so that the police can be present." Yang Xingyu said. Sure enough, the police could no longer hold back and thought that Zhou Yumei had sneaked out of the mental hospital at number 600 Wamping South Road. Seeing that Zhou Yumei was not wearing a hospital gown, they felt relieved and raised their hands to speak. "Hello, teacher, can you listen to me?" Zhou Yumei continued her long speech for 5 minutes before giving the police a chance to speak. "I'm done, police officer. Please go ahead. I hope we can discuss this matter. I know you are in a hurry to move in, but you also have to give others time to move in, right?" The police began to play it safe, putting it off until tomorrow, and then tomorrow until the day after tomorrow. After all, the next time someone calls the police, they will most likely not be the ones to handle it. So whoever encounters it will be unlucky. Yang Xingyu said, "It has been delayed for several weeks. Last time we agreed to move out today, and they all signed." The old lady who was the former landlord got up from the ground and said, "I am old and my eyesight is not good. I can't see the words clearly. I signed when they asked me to. I didn't expect that they wanted me to move. How old is this kid? He has learned bad habits at such a young age. He lied to us old people that our eyesight is not good. Damn it. Why doesn't God take these bad guys away? Why is my life so miserable?" The old lady cried and accused Yang Xingyu of being a liar. But her voice was extremely loud, without any trace of grief, and her performance was very obvious. The former landlord said, "On the day of signing, my wife and I were not at home. Only my parents were there. They are both in their 70s. Law enforcement should have some basic morality. The person who tricked my mother into signing should be arrested by the police." Yang Xingyu was so angry that he was speechless. This family deliberately confused things up. Yang Xingyu was too inexperienced and was no match for him at all. The policeman was unmoved. "Now that you and your wife are here, can you sign? When are you going to move out?" The former landlord said, "There is no way we would do business with a liar, absolutely not." At this time, Marlin came back, carrying a white bucket with a faint, unpleasant smell coming out. The police were relieved when they saw that Marlin had no weapon in his hand. "Mr. Chen, we are negotiating the move. Why don't you give them another week? It's still difficult to find a house," said the police. "It's before 3 o'clock this afternoon, which is past that point," said Marlin. "Can't you be flexible?" The policeman made a last-ditch effort. He found that Marlin was quite reasonable and not as fierce as he said. Marlin looked at the former landlord and said, "Okay, we can re-sign the agreement and extend it for a week." Before the former landlord could say anything, his mother came over, fell to the ground, and hugged Marlin's legs. "Murder, murder, I have a heart disease. I'd rather die. Son, you have to see who killed your mother and remember to avenge me." The police were speechless. Even though they were using the law enforcement recorder, the old lady still did the same thing. Marlin smiled. "So, you're not going to sign the agreement?" The former landlord said, "The agreement must be re-signed." My request is very low. Compensate me 3 million, and I will move out immediately. 3 million? I already spent 4.2 million to buy it at the auction. Yang Xingyu was angry. I can give you $300,000, not to compensate you, but because I think you have two elderly people in your family, said Marlin. The former landlord was dismissive. After the 4.2 million auction, I didn't see a penny. How dare you say that you forced the sale? Marlin sighed. He really didn't want to do this, but this family had no intention of re-signing the agreement and wanted to cheat from the beginning. His legs were held by the old lady, making it inconvenient for him to walk, so he stopped walking. The old lady thought Marlin would try to break free, but Marlin didn't move. She didn't know what to do, so she collapsed on the ground, hugging someone else's legs, feeling a little uncomfortable. Marlin didn't move his legs, but his hands. He opened the white plastic bucket he brought back, and a strong smell of cheap paint emerged. Marlin picked up the bucket and threw paint at the wall. The house needs to be renovated, so let's throw some paint first, Marlin said calmly. The paint smells damn bad. Police, hurry up and catch this person. He threw paint on my house. The former landlord shouted. Old lady, you are holding me. Do you want me to stay for dinner? Marlin asked gently, and then continued to splash the remaining paint. Yang Xingyu felt great, but the smell of paint was too bad. Brother-in-law, where did you buy it? How much? I bought it at the hardware market. This is the cheapest one, 87 yuan a bucket. The boss suggested painting the outdoor railings, saying that if you paint the walls indoors, the people living there will be more likely to get leukemia. You should take your girlfriend and mom to stand away from them. The police, court staff, and agents all covered their noses. You guys just stay at the door. I'll chat with them about the move, said Marlin. Talk about your mother's head. The former landlord was furious. Your mother's head is on the ground, Marlin said. Sir, that's a bit too much. You should give him a little buffer time. The police secretly gave Marlin a thumbs up and verbally admonished Marlin. You must think that there is not enough paint. Don't worry, I am well prepared, said Marlin. Gu Xiaoyu said, Young heir, you are right. Merida, that crazy woman, married Marlin, which is a great honor for your family. I like men like this. Young heir warned. You are not allowed to compete with my sister for men, but you can compete with my girlfriend. Zhou Yumei was a little worried. They won't beat Marlin, will they? Marlin can't win. There are 4 policemen and 2 people from the court here. What are you worried about? Gu Xiaoyu said. Marlin was so arrogant that I wanted to beat him up, let alone the police, said Zhou Yumei. Mr. Chun is amazing. I was wrong about you. The agent Ma Zhongjie couldn't stand the paint smell either, so he opened the window in the corridor to breathe in some oxygen. Marlin took out a cigarette and lit it. His mother-in-law was not around, so he quickly smoked one to calm down. Chapter 60, The House Problem, is perfectly solved. The former landlord's family was furious. I haven't even moved my stuff, and you want to compensate me for my furniture. My stool is the one that Emperor Qianlong sat on, and my bed is a dragon bed, which is worth 50 million. Really? Didn't you say you had no money? Since you don't pay your debts and hide your assets, we can consider suing you. The court staff was happy. This family probably wanted to conceal their property, so all the valuables had already been moved out. There were only tables, stools, and beds in the house, and basically nothing valuable. The former landlord and his wife stayed in the room and didn't go out. The old lady cried for a long time, but no one paid attention to her. She was also uncomfortable lying on the ground. It was not because she was cold, but because the floor was too hard. The old lady was very uncomfortable. The old man was also a little confused, not knowing whether he should hold Marlin's other leg. After a while, the old lady let go of Marlin's legs. Marlin asked with concern, Why don't you continue to hug me? If you feel uncomfortable, you can change the position. The old lady almost couldn't catch her breath and rolled her eyes. You're so cruel, said the former landlord. Just as the situation was at a standstill, a middle-aged man came over with a toolbox on his back and asked, Excuse me, who is Mr. Chin? Marlin said, I am. Don't you want to change the lock cylinder? Is this house yours? I dare not change it without the property certificate. The locksmith was startled when he saw the police here and immediately followed the formal lock-changing procedure. Normally, he would not look at the property certificate and would just start working after paying the money. Yang Xingyu handed the property certificate to the locksmith for review. No, this house is mine and the lock cannot be changed. The former landlord shouted. Don't be afraid, the police are here. I'll change the lock of my own house. Yang Xingyu said. Marlin humbly asked the police. If I change the locks of my own house and someone comes to disturb me and I stab them to death, is that considered self-defense? Excessive self-defense. The police gave a meticulous answer. When the locksmith heard Marlon say he was going to stab someone to death, his hands began to tremble. This is too scary. I'm just a locksmith. I want to live a few more years. When did changing locks become so dangerous? The landlord's mother wanted to come over to change the locks, but was stopped by Marlon and the police. The police finally figured it out that it is better to suffer a short pain than a long one. If they solve the problem once and for all, there will be much less trouble later. The master was a professional. Even though his hands were shaking, he still replaced the lock cylinder in less than 10 minutes and handed the 4 keys corresponding to the new lock to Yang Xingyu. Marlon gave $200. 100 is enough. The master answered with a trembling voice. The man in front of him seemed to want to kill someone. I'll pay 100 in advance, and this guy will definitely destroy the lock core. Marlon said, well, thank you. You continue to destroy. If necessary, just shout. When the master left, he threw a business card to Marlon. For money, he was not afraid of potential murderers. Marlon checked the time. It will be delivered soon. The police asked, what have you done? 1 bucket of paint is not enough for such a big house. I ordered 10 buckets, said Marlon. Sure enough, a man who looked like a migrant worker came to the door carrying 4 buckets of paint. Marlon took the paint without saying a word and splashed it all over. The house has 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms, and all the bedrooms smell strongly of paint. You are too cruel, said the landlord. If you talk nicely to us, I can even let you stay an extra month, Marlon said. Awesome. You can't live here after it's like this, said the landlord. Let's call it a day. We have 5 more buckets of paint tomorrow, Marlon said and walked out of the room. Just let it go like this? Yang Xingyu asked. What else can we do? Marlon said. Police and court staff left the room. Ma Zhongjie was also very embarrassed and hid in the aisle. Dong 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 called the police, and after she signed, Yang Xingyu went to lock the door and left. The landlord and his family were locked inside, and it was unknown how long they could hold out. If they really wanted to leave, they could open the door from the inside. We will not trouble our colleagues from the court and the police in the future. Thank you all. Marlon thanked the relevant participants. The police were horrified. It would be strange if it wasn't troublesome. The court staff apologized. Sorry, we didn't expect the other party to stay. This was a mistake in our work. Marlon curled his lips and did not expose the 2 court staff with good attitudes. What a work error. Too fake. When they got home, Zhou Yumei sniffed around like a sensitive dog. Merida, did you eat something secretly? Merida looked embarrassed. Mom, you guys are back so soon? It's the first time my brother's girlfriend is here. Why are you picking on a trash can? There were bamboo sticks and chicken bones in the trash can, and the room smelled of grilled chicken wings, grilled squid, and lamb kebabs. Zhou Yumei wanted to scold Merida for eating junk food, but considering that it was her son's girlfriend's first visit, she suppressed her anger and said, Dong Dong, our house is relatively small. Dong Air said, it feels quite warm. Marlon said, don't worry about it yet. See how you will come with me to install the camera later. Install cameras? What cameras do you want? Give me a red envelope first. This is the first time my girlfriend comes to visit. Everyone must give a red envelope. Don't even think about escaping. Everyone who sees her will get a share. Yang Xingyu stretched out his hand. Dong 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 said, I'm so sorry for making everyone spend money. After saying sorry verbally, the payment code on the mobile phone immediately flashed in front of everyone, as if reminding them. It would be embarrassing not to give a red envelope when meeting someone for the first time. Zhou Yumei gave Dong 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 a big red envelope. Merida said, I am pregnant and cell phone radiation is high, so I won't post it. Marlon said, I'm waiting for the camera, so I won't post it either. Yang Air jumped up and said, You two are in cahoots with each other, brother-in-law. You were not like this before. You were led astray by my sister. Your brother-in-law has grown up, Merida said. Zhou Yumei took Merida's phone and said, Come here, Dong Dong. I'll send red envelopes for your sister. I'm not afraid of radiation. Merida was speechless. Mom, I'm your daughter. What's wrong with a daughter? Daughters are married off, and daughters-in-law are family members. Mom, you're too biased towards boys. Can you hide it a little bit? I am a people's teacher. I am consistent in my words and deeds. I value my daughter-in-law more than my daughter. What's wrong with that? Marlon expected the quarrel between the mother and daughter to continue, so he sent a red envelope on Merida's behalf. Okay, let's get down to business. That family won't move out easily. They will definitely destroy things before they leave. We don't have to worry about them destroying things now. But if they come back to destroy things after you've finished decorating, it will be very troublesome. We must deal with them thoroughly this time, said Marlin. After a while, someone delivered 5 small cameras to our door. Go and pretend now. Young Ad asked. Right. Marlin and Yang Xingyu returned to the door of the house together. The door was open for ventilation, and inside an old lady and an old man were crying, and the former landlord and his wife were arguing. Marlin felt a little bit sorry for this family, wondering what had happened to them, that they ended up losing their house. In the end, he hardened his heart. Yang Xingyu and Marlin hid in the corridor and waited for more than an hour before the landlord and his 4 people left the room, carrying a large bag. The furniture was not moved away, so they were probably going to stay in a hotel. After the 4 people disappeared, Marlin and Yang Xingyu quickly took out a stool from the room, stepped on the stool, and installed the cameras at different angles, with the cameras facing the door. After finishing, the 2 wiped the dust off the stool, put it back in the room, locked the door, and left. That night, Marlin returned to his home on Yinchang Road. The next day, someone delivered paint to his door, and Yang Xingyu took the paint and splashed it around again. In the afternoon, I found that I couldn't open the door. Someone poured a lot of 520 glue into the lock core. Yang Xingyu called the police, who came to his house, took his statement, collected evidence, and then notified his former landlord. The former landlord refused to admit that he did it. Yang Xingyu gave the video to the police, and the police showed it to the former landlord. Mr. Yang, will you sue? I will definitely sue. See you in court. The former landlord's behavior can be said to be an attempt to break into a house or destroy other people's property, etc. This person has no money to hire a lawyer, and he will most likely lose the lawsuit. In the past, debts were still civil acts, but now destroying property and suspected theft is a criminal offense. The severity of the two is completely different. Mr. Yang, you and I didn't know each other before, and we have no grudges against each other. I want to take the house back, and I was wrong. How about we reconcile and move out immediately? The former landlord finally gave in. I won't sue you now, but I reserve the right to sue you. Yang Xingyu, this idiot, finally showed his integrity for once. The prosecution period is 10 years. Please keep the relevant evidence, as it will become invalid after 10 years. The police kindly reminded both parties. I will keep it well. Yang Xingyu became a good boy who listened to the police uncle. The former landlord was speechless. He had only poured glue into the lock core, but the other party had the evidence in his hands and had to keep it for 10 years. It was really a lie. With a trace of reluctance, the landlord walked out of the police station and just looked at Marlin's face, saying how disgusting he was. Let's find a place and talk, Marlin said with a smile. Chapter 61, Su Qianan and Tan Yiya are both powerful people. Chat? What's there to chat about? What else do you want? I don't have anything at home. The former landlord was itching to take a bite of Marlin. He also felt strange in his heart. This person avoided Yang Xingyu and looked for him alone. He didn't know what weird purpose he had. What's your GP account number? Marlin asked. What do you want to do? Marlin sighed. I don't want to do anything. Your parents are 70 years old, right? I want to transfer some money to you and rent a house for them to stay. The former landlord looked at Marlin, trying to find conspiracy in his face, and wanted to know what Marlin was thinking. This man was so cruel and ruthless yesterday. He was definitely not a good person. Now he suddenly becomes so kind. There must be a conspiracy. Pies don't fall from the sky, but traps often happen. The former landlord studied Marlin carefully for a long time, but did not see any sign of a trap on his face. Instead, he saw calmness and sympathy. The former landlord also sighed, his tense nerves relaxing. All the accounts linked to my ID card are under supervision, and any money will be transferred away immediately to pay off debts. The phone is bound to my father's account. If you really want to give me money, transfer it to my father's account. After reporting the account number, Marlin transferred it immediately. The former landlord asked in surprise, You transferred 200,000 yuan to me? He thought it would be only a few thousand yuan. Marlin said, The maximum daily transfer limit of my maternal and child health insurance is only 200,000 yuan. The former landlord's mouth trembled a little, and his eyes were a little red. Thank you. Thank you. It's nothing. We bought your house and actually got a good deal. I don't know why you didn't just sell the house to pay off your debts. Why did you have to go to court for auction? I'm leaving first. Take care of yourself, Marlin said and was about to leave. Can I know your name, sir? I think I heard someone call your name yesterday, but I forgot it. Marlin. My name is Su Qianan. I used to have a different name. After I went bankrupt, I changed it to Su Qianan in order to escape my debts. Unexpectedly, the people in the court are very observant. My little trick is of no use at all. Su Qianan said with a wry smile. Shuqianan, are you the night watchman? Marlin was startled, thinking he had encountered a time traveler. Don't laugh at me. I used to be a big boss and lived in a villa. But my business failed and most of the things in my house were taken away. In the end, I was left with only this house, which I couldn't keep. When you get to this point, everything is fake. Happiness comes from being able to handle the 7 necessities of life. So I changed my name to Su Qianan. Life is so difficult. Marlin smiled, not knowing how to comfort the former big boss. You said it's in the late stage of cancer. That's scary, right? Su Qianan asked. It's true. The diagnosis was given by the oncology department of the 6th hospital. It was reviewed and confirmed. Marlin said. Su Qianan looked at Marlin and didn't know how to comfort this calm young man in front of him. This man seemed to be more alive than he was. Goodbye, said Marlin. Goodbye. I'm going to find a house. Su Qianan said. After Su Qianan left, the police came over and followed the court auction staff. Mr. Chun, you really don't need to help this man. He's not a good person. He owes a lot of money to others, and he also owes money to the bank. The amount is so huge that you can't imagine, said the court staff. As long as I feel at ease, Marlin said. You won't feel at ease because you don't even know who you are helping. His original name is Su Jiayin. If you search online, you will know what he has done, said the court staff. Marlin smiled. No need. I don't want to make things difficult for myself. It's good to be a little confused. The court staff was very upset. Marlin's words made the staff roll their eyes for a long time. Yang Xingyu returned home happily and praised his brother-in-law. Brother-in-law's calculations were so accurate. That guy named Su Qianan was as well-behaved as a grandson in the police station. He was so arrogant yesterday. Zhou Yumei began to brag. Xiaoxue, your mother has a unique vision. The husband she found for you does everything flawlessly. Merida said, you have a unique vision. You bought a problematic house for your son. No normal human being would do that. You've screwed your son so much. Zhou Yumei exploded. Merida, listen to me. I didn't bother you about eating barbecue yesterday, but you're going to be a mother soon, and you can't even control your mouth. Merida was unyielding. What's wrong with me eating barbecue? Either give me barbecue or burn paper for me. You choose one. Zhou Yumei's blood pressure rose. Merida, are you trying to piss me off to death and divide the inheritance? Yang Xingyu stood firmly on his mother's side. Sister, you have poor self-control. You must control your mouth. You really let mom down. If mom really dies, you won't get a penny of the inheritance. Shut up. Shut up. Mom and sister yelled at Yang Xingyu at the same time. Yang Xingyu was speechless. What's wrong with me? You don't have a job, so you have no right to speak. Yang Xingyu hid in the corner and drew circles. He had very little say at home. After hesitating for a while, he decided to accept his brother-in-law Marlin's suggestion and work as a corpse collector in a restaurant first. I called Marlin, but he didn't answer. I left a message for Marlin, and he took a long time to reply. I have something to do. I'll contact you tomorrow. Marlin is really in trouble. After breaking up with Su Qianan, he went straight to the coffee shop. An appointment was made a few days ago that Grandma Gu's daughter, Tan Xiaoye, would come for a meeting with Marlin. Mr. Chun, you caused my mother to fall. Have you thought clearly about the compensation issue? If we can talk about it, I don't want to go to court. The two were negotiating in a newly opened cafe. Tan Xiaoye went straight to the point and asked about the situation directly. The owner of this Yu-Ro coffee shop once bought secondhand tableware from Marlin. Ms. Tan, you want to take advantage of your mother's fall to defraud me of some money. Just tell me a number so that I can be mentally prepared. Marlin did not directly answer the other party, but instead accused the other party of being a fraud. If I am not mistaken, Tan Xiaoye must have brought a recording device with her. If Marlin discussed compensation with her, he would have fallen into her trap, which would have been equivalent to indirectly admitting that it was Marlin who caused Tan Xiaoye's mother to fall. Mr. Chun, it was you who caused my mother to fall. How can this be called fraud? Ms. Tan doesn't admit it's a scam, so the term touching a car might be more accurate. Did your mother see that my car is very expensive and take me as a target for tampering with the car? Then she tampered with me and arranged for you to come to me to ask for money. You and your son must have done this often. You are very skilled. One thing leads to another. It doesn't look like this is your first time. You must have succeeded many times before. How much did you usually ask for from the other party? Tan Xiaoye didn't expect to meet a master today. She took a deep breath and adjusted her strategy. Marlon is not that awesome. What is awesome is the lawyer Nyo Guhong, who told Marlon in advance how to incorporate the content of the conversation into his own rhythm. Tan Xiaoye ordered a cup of coffee. Marlon asked for a glass of pure water, and both of them were preparing. The scene became tense. Marlon was pretending to be nervous. He wanted to appear nervous so that his opponent would let down his guard. Tan Xiaoye was also pretending to be nervous. She wanted to create a tense atmosphere to make her opponent nervous. She is in her early 40s and is the eldest daughter of Grandma Gu. She has participated in many business negotiations and knows that she cannot easily reveal her cards. Tan Xiaoye works as a secretary in a listed company and has rich experience in this area. According to her estimation, this science and engineering guy named Marlon has rigorous thinking in normal state, but will show many loopholes when he gets emotional. She drank coffee, stared at Marlon with fierce eyes, creating a tense atmosphere, and Marlon really acted uneasy. There's hope. She was waiting for Marlon to speak first. If he spoke first, he would lose momentum. Marlon pretended to be nervous and kept sipping water. After finishing a bottle of water, Marlon said nothing. When Tan Xiaoye saw that Marlon had finished drinking the water, she thought he was going to speak, but unexpectedly, Marlon took out an extremely large thing from his crotch and put it on the table. Is this thing called a bucket or a cup? Marlon simply made Tan Xiaoye unable to do anything. Marlon poured out a small half cup of Chinese medicine and drank it slowly, just like tasting tea. Tan Xiaoye finally lost her temper and asked, "Why isn't Mr. Chen talking?" Marlon panicked and almost dropped the cup. Sorry, I just suddenly thought of a program I wrote. There may be a problem. It's not a problem with the logic, but a performance problem in high concurrency. Do you know that when the database encounters this situation, it either gives up locking or ensures transaction integrity to avoid dirty reads? Marlon talked endlessly about some programming ideas to Tan Xiaoye. Tan Xiaoye's anger gradually rose. Mr. Chun, I came from Pujiang not to listen to you talk about programming. Sorry, it's a professional habit. Marlon smiled shyly, like an innocent little white rabbit. Chapter 62. Tan Xiaoye and the Three Tang Brothers. Tan Xiaoye finally stopped pretending. Mr. Chun, let's just say it directly. My mother was washing clothes in the forest park, and you parked the car next to the toilet. This was the main reason why my mother fell and was seriously injured. I am not an unreasonable person. I hope to resolve the compensation issue through negotiation between the two parties. Excuse me, Ms. Tan. How do you prove that your mother is not committing fraud? Marlon would not negotiate compensation with the other party at all. If someone could ask for compensation for such a thing, he would rather die in the accident. So, Mr. Chen doesn't intend to compensate us? Ms. Tan, my car was parked next to you, and your mother took the initiative to hit the car, and then deliberately got injured. This is a very obvious act of hitting the car, just like there are many cars on the street, and your mother hit the car and got seriously injured. Please don't denigrate an old man. Please give both sides at least some respect. Please focus on the incident itself. This incident has nothing to do with age. I parked my car next to you, and your mother pushed the car and left. If your mother is not committing fraud, then she is stealing. Ms. Tan, do you think your mother is stealing or committing fraud? Both sides stopped pretending, and the atmosphere was tense. Mr. Chun, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't get back to the topic of compensation, I will announce this matter to the entire internet. Mr. Chen will not only lose the lawsuit, but his reputation will also be ruined, and his career prospects will be affected. Tan Xiaoye began to be aggressive. She seemed to have good intentions, but it was actually a threat. Marlon said, "Thank you. You don't need to give me a chance. You can just publish it directly. If you fabricate facts to slander me, I will call the police. I suggest Ms. Tan check in advance how long the sentence for defamation is. In that case, I'll take my leave first. Goodbye." Tan Xiaoye stood up. "I'll pay the bill, Miss Tan," Marlon said with a smile. "No thanks, okay." Tan Xiaoye bought her own cup of coffee. Marlon said goodbye and headed for the door. Waiter, this man ran away without paying. Tan Xiaoye reported Marlon for running away without paying on the spot. "Thank you for the report, young lady. Mr. Chun and I are acquaintances. His coffee in our store is free. Young lady, you are welcome to visit us next time," the coffee shop owner said with a smile. Tan Xiaoye was almost so angry that she became like Tan Manhwa and slammed the door and walked out. "Thank you, Boss Liu," Marlon said with a smile. When Tan Xiaoye came to meet Marlon, Marlon deliberately set the meeting place at Yu Ro Coffee and asked the boss Lu Donkai to help him to annoy this arrogant woman. "Mr. Chen, you're welcome. Come often in the future. Lu Donkai said. Not long after the cafe opened, it held several promotions and business was good. But when the promotion stopped, business went bad again, which made Lu Dong a little depressed. Mr. Chun, that woman just now looked so fierce. The waiter patted his chest. The waitress was a girl in her early 20s. She spoke softly and was neither pretty nor ugly. Of course, there were not many pretty young girls working as waitresses. She's very fierce, Marlon said with a laugh. I thought it was Mr. Chen's girlfriend. Fortunately, she wasn't. Mr. Chun is so handsome. His girlfriend must be beautiful. The waiters started gossiping. Marlon stole a bicycle from Aunt Gu in the park, and she was seriously injured. Aunt Gu's daughter Tan Yu actually went to court to claim compensation from Marlon and the park security guard. The waiter was furious. This woman is so vicious. I just served her with a smile. I'm so hungry. I will go mop the floor. The waiter took out a mop from the utility room. Lu Donkai said, the floor isn't dirty. Why are you mopping it? Isn't it enough to mop it once a day? That woman is dirty. She has sat here. I can't stand it if she doesn't mop the floor. I use disinfectant after closing. Tan Xiaoya didn't know that even a waiter thought she was dirty. She was an elite white-collar worker. After returning home, she immediately began to search for relevant laws and also search for Marlon-S information. Soon, she saw a Weibo post by Shang Yiyun, whose name was Marlon and the photo was also of Marlon. This Weibo post has 0 reposts and 0 comments, so the person who posted it must be an ordinary person. Tan Xiaoya was so happy that her anger at Marlon disappeared instantly. She took out a recorder, listened to her conversation with Marlon repeatedly, and edited it. She then took photos of the hospital bill for her mother, Grandma Gu, and Grandma Gu's painful expression, and then wrote an article. In the article, he talked about how miserable he was and how hard his mother worked to raise 3 siblings. His mother went to the park for a walk and to the toilet when she was tripped by someone riding a bicycle. Not only did the other party not pay compensation, they also said that Grandma Gu was either stealing or committing fraud. Excuse me, is there any 65-year-old who commits fraud? Is there any 65-year-old who steals a bicycle? My mother's legs and feet are not flexible. Do you have any humanity if you frame her for stealing a bicycle? At the end of the article, Tan Xiaoya also took a screenshot of Shang Yiyun's Weibo and posted it as supplementary material. The person who framed my mother is the same person that Ms. Shang Yiyun met. Tan Xiaoya did not use Marlon-S frontal portrait, nor did she write Marlon-S name. She just distorted the facts. It would be very difficult for Marlon to accuse her of defamation. Instead, it was Shang Yiyu who said Marlon-S name and used photos of Marlon taken secretly on the subway. Tina was browsing Weibo and saw what Tan Xiaoya posted. Haha, Marlon is in big trouble. This time, he must compensate me for my phone and the $100,000 that was defrauded from me. Tina reposted Shang Yiyun and Tan Xiaoya's Weibo posts and said that Marlon was a habitual thief who stole her new phone. But this person seemed to have a connection with the Public Security Bureau, and the Public Security Bureau always sided with him. The 3 Tang brothers also saw Tina's Weibo. Someone else's mother was sent to the hospital by Marlon. The 3 Tang brothers reposted Tan Xiaoya's Weibo and shared their own family situation. Marlon hit their mother and ran away, and their mother has not recovered yet. What a scumbag! After seeing Tang Sanxiao's Weibo, countless people left messages on Weibo, supporting the Tang brothers and insulting Marlon. When Tan Xiaoya saw all this, she was very satisfied. The result was better than she expected. You did it yourself. Don't blame me for being cruel, said Tan Xiaoya. Tan Xiaoya took the initiative to contact Tina, who had lost her cell phone, and Tang Jiasanxiao, whose mother was hit violently on the bus. As for Shang Yu, she felt that this woman was brainless and there was no need to join forces. Publishing people's names and photos, this is stupid. Tan Xiaoya is ready to give Marlon a fatal blow. In a small office in Songjiang Steel Trading Center, a man is looking at his mobile phone. Lao Su, why are you daydreaming? Someone asked. This Marlon is so unlucky. Together with the 2 old ladies, parks and buses have become his crime scenes. The man said while looking at the Weibo. If Marlon was here, he would definitely recognize that the man called Lao Su was Su Qianan, the former landlord of the house that Yang Xingyu bought. Who is Marlon? Is he also a capital tycoon? Oh, an acquaintance who got into trouble recently, Su Qianan said. Su Qianan put away his phone and took out a cigarette. International steel futures have risen, Lao Gao. Do you want to make a move? Be careful not to go bankrupt again and lose your house. Damn, how can you talk like that? I was just careless. I transferred my property away in advance. How can this be considered bankruptcy? Su Qianan was very unhappy. Come on, I know you are pretending to be poor and using bankruptcy to cover it up. Lao Gao said. Marlin certainly didn't know there were so many plots against him. After chatting with Tan Xiaoye, he also recorded it and sent the recording file to Niu Guhong, who praised him fiercely. Marlin, I like you more and more. Your speaking skills have improved a lot compared to before. If you had such a high speaking level when I met you, I might have married you. Promise yourself to me? Marlin sent a funny expression. Chapter 63 Class Reunion. Niu Guhong has received a notice from the court that the first hearing of the claim for compensation for Grandma Gu initiated by Tan Xiaoye will be in 2 months. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. This time, I'm going to combat this unfair phenomenon in an all-round way and change the social atmosphere. Niu Guhong seemed like a famous lawyer in Shanghai, but in fact, she had no influence. Her law firm had been established for almost 5 years, but it still had no reputation. Marlin had nothing to worry about. He didn't care, he didn't pay any attention, and continued to maintain his regular schedule. When I was a child, I wrote an essay. My ideal. 80% of the students in the class wanted to be scientists or soldiers. Marlin still remembers the embarrassment of being criticized by his Chinese teacher for his composition. What he wrote was indeed not in line with the standards of an elementary school student. My ideal is to be a farmer. I will make a lot of money first, then return to my hometown to be a farmer, plant vegetables and flowers on the farmland, and have 2 servants at home, one responsible for cleaning and the other for cooking. I don't ask for too much interest on the deposit, just enough to pay for my life and the servants' wages. I spend my days reading, writing, and spending time with my beautiful wife. Now Marlin runs, takes medicine, and wastes his time every day as if he has achieved his life ideal. Everything is fine except the troubles. As expected, my ex-mother-in-law called me and asked about the situation. Only then did I know that the mother and daughter had quarreled again. Merida was under the supervision of her mother to take care of the fetus every day, and she was very unhappy. It happened that a classmate came back from abroad and organized a class reunion. Merida wanted to attend the reunion and relax at the same time. Zhou Yumei was worried that Merida would drink at the party and firmly disagreed. As a result, the conflict between mother and daughter finally intensified, and they had a big fight. Zhou Yumei gave in and called Marlin, asking him to accompany Merida to the party and supervise Merida's diet. When is Xiaoshua's party? Tomorrow at noon. Come over tomorrow morning. Marlin looked at the time and felt a little overwhelmed. He had an appointment to discuss the purchase of the house with the owner of Jinshu Mansion tomorrow afternoon. Okay. Marlin estimated the time. The class reunion would start at 12 o'clock and was expected to end at 2 o'clock. Marlin made an appointment to talk to the landlord at 3:30, which was enough time. I'm recovering from my illness, so why is my schedule getting tighter and tighter? Marlin said self-deprecatingly. When I met my ex-wife and ex-mother-in-law, both of them had red faces and eyes. As soon as they saw Marlin coming, the 2 women began to summarize each other's crimes. They were all too numerous to list. The death penalty was not enough, but life imprisonment was definitely a light sentence. This family lacks a man. Women are careless in the big picture, but careful in the small details. They completely forget the big picture of family harmony, magnify the details of the other party's mistakes, generalize them, and thus conclude that the other party is useless. Both women didn't regard Yang Xingyu as a man. In their eyes, Yang Xingyu was a fool who would make trouble at any time. So Marlin, who had no legal relationship with them, became the best person to confide in. During the conversation between mother and daughter, they had another small quarrel. Finally, both sides compromised. Zhou Yumei agreed to let her daughter attend the class reunion, and Merida agreed to let Marlin accompany her. In fact, the classmates had already agreed that no one was allowed to bring family members because some of the classmates were single, and the idea was to avoid discouraging single people. Marlin drove Merida to the so-called revolving restaurant. You go to the class reunion. I'll wait for you downstairs, said Marlin. Looking at her considerate ex-husband, Merida said, Who knows when the party will end? You'll be so bored alone. Let's go together. The 2 came to the revolving restaurant together. Merida is pregnant, and she attended the event without any makeup. The other female classmates all dressed up deliberately, which made Merida seem too casual. What makes people angry is that other students dress up beautifully, but Merida doesn't dress up, but she also looks gorgeous. It's so speechless that she has a good foundation. However, it was agreed that family members would not be brought along, but in the end, the women did not keep their word. No matter they were married or had boyfriends, they all followed along. fearing that the class reunion would spark a rekindled romance. On the contrary, the boys did not bring their wives or girlfriends. They all pretended to be single, hoping to find an opportunity to rekindle their old love. Short chapter. Another chapter will be updated in half an hour. Chapter 64, Merida married the wrong person. Chapter 64, Merida married the wrong man. We were all middle school classmates in the same group and often sent photos to each other. There was no sense of strangeness, no sense of being in a different world. The only strangers were Sam Tang and Tang Daquan. Tang Daquan's hair was obviously sprayed with hairspray. It was as smooth as steel wire, and his whole body was covered with branded clothes. It was estimated that he was not doing well abroad and had to rely on branded clothes to support himself. Rich people disdained to package themselves with famous brands. For example, Marlon wears flip-flops, big shorts, and collarless short-sleeved shirts. The most exaggerated thing is that he carries a bucket-like water cup on his back. The vibe of a loser is overwhelming and covers his entire body. Classmates don't need to introduce each other, but if you bring family members with you, you need to introduce them. Tang Daquan sat on Merida's left, and Marlon sat on Merida's right. When the family members introduced themselves, they all said who they were, the husband or boyfriend of so-and-so, and what company they worked for. Marlon's turn. Marlon said, "My name is Marlon, Merida's ex-boyfriend. We ended our relationship 3 years ago because we got married." It was a bit funny, and everyone laughed. Even those who didn't find it funny gave a fake smile to show their support. Class reunions are supposed to be casual. Marlon didn't tell me about his job, and Merida didn't dress up. Everyone knew that Marlon was good-looking, but he couldn't make money. He didn't even have money to buy cosmetics for his wife. Otherwise, why did Merida dress up? Women all love beauty. Most beautiful women have big breasts but no brains. A brainless woman like Merida must have married the wrong person. Merida with sympathy, and the boys looked at Merida with pity. We are all adults, and it is basic etiquette to see the truth but not speak it out. There were more than 30 classmates, 28 of whom came, plus a dozen family members, a total of more than 40 people. Even in the large private room, it seemed a bit crowded. A few years after graduation, everyone lives a normal life. No one becomes super rich, and no one falls into poverty. The theme of this kind of class reunion is reminiscing about the friendship between classmates. 10 years from now, when the gap between classmates has grown, the class reunion will become a show-off event for the wealthy classmates. However, the poor classmates will not attend, making the classmates who want to show off lose the opportunity. The scene was lively, but Marlon just felt lonely. He silently accompanied Merida for dinner without saying a word or interfering in other people's affairs. Tang Daquan was naturally the focus of the gathering, and everyone asked about Tang Daquan's situation abroad intentionally or unintentionally. Tang Daquan took the opportunity to show off, mixing a lot of English words in his speech, trying to use foreign languages to increase his sense of mystery. As expected, this made the single female classmates blush and feel excited, and the married female classmates were so moved that they planned a divorce. Everyone knows that Tang Daquan likes Merida. He even announced at school that he would not marry anyone else but Merida, and he almost got punished. "Lao Tang, are you married?" a boy asked. "Single since birth." After Tang Daquan said this, he glanced at Merida beside him. Merida is working on a piece of spicy crab on her plate. Gradually, other students began to pay attention to Merida. Merida, who used to talk a lot, now said very little and just focused on eating. Her image and behavior directly exposed the embarrassing truth that she eats poorly at home. Everyone felt even more sympathy for Merida. Merida had eyes for was the table full of food. Everything my mom cooked was low in sugar and salt, and it was all bland. After eating any more, Merida felt like she should change her name to Sleepwalking Sheep. Gu Xiaoyu was secretly happy when he knew the truth. "Merida, do you like spicy crabs?" "I've never heard you say that before." Tang Daquan asked very gentlemanly. "I haven't eaten it for a long time. I really want to eat it." Merida was in a state of disarray and her hands were covered in oil. "Marlon, wipe my face." Merida felt oil at the corners of her mouth and wanted to wipe her face with a tissue, but there was too much oil on her hands. She was carrying the 88,000 yuan bag today, and she didn't want to get oil on the bag. Marlon took out a wet tissue and gently and considerately wiped the food residue from the corners of Merida's mouth. Merida rushed to pick up a few pieces of fried crispy pork with chopsticks and stuff them into her mouth. When foodies eat their favorite food, they never care about their image. Marlon put 2 large shrimps on the plate in front of him, peeled them, and put them on the plate in front of Merida. Merida ate them without hesitation. Everyone saw it and understood that although Marlon didn't have much ability, he was still very considerate to Merida. Tang Daquan really wanted to peel shrimps for Merida, but unfortunately, he was not qualified. He felt a little sad, so he suggested that everyone clink glasses. Marlon's supervision finally worked. He poured Merida a glass of orange juice and clinked glasses with everyone. No, Merida. You are the wine lover in our class. Why don't you drink anymore? Your husband is so strict. Your status in the family is worrying, said a girl. The boys also followed suit. Yang Jiuxian, let's go. Let's do the white one. Marlon had no choice but to stand up and say, Xiao Xue is pregnant and can't drink. Tang Daquan was stunned. He was still fantasizing about finding a way to get Merida to divorce him. He found that Merida was more beautiful and more attractive than before. From the moment he saw Merida again, he felt like he was dreaming. Unexpectedly, Merida was pregnant. This made him feel like his dream was shattered and his heart ached. The other boys were also very sad. One of them, under the influence of alcohol, shouted, Merida, you are my goddess, and you are pregnant. Your husband is a bastard. Gu Xiaoyu almost vomited blood. It was normal for other people's husbands to make Merida pregnant. Wouldn't it be normal for other people to be bastards if they made Merida pregnant? Gu Xiaoyu, who was afraid of chaos in the world, said, Marlon, are you afraid that our Merida will be seduced by someone else, so you deliberately let Lao Yang get pregnant? Marlon said, Yes, I have a beautiful wife, and I worry every night. Now that Merida is pregnant, I feel relieved. The boys thought this was a good idea, and the girls looked down on Marlon even more. Marlon didn't care about other people's contempt. Whenever he had time, he would take out his cell phone to check it. For fear of missing the time, he had agreed to meet Feng Daqiao. An hour has passed since the party. It is now 1 o'clock, which is still early for 3:30 in the afternoon. Seeing that the phone Marlon took out was a 3-year-old model, it once again proved that Marlon is a poor bastard. Dai Lisher used to be Merida's desk mate. She was pretty and the most beautiful girl in class. Later, she was admitted to high school and went to college. Only then did everyone realize that Dai Lisher was not as pretty as Merida. It's actually true that girls change a lot when they grow up. Except for those who don't drink, everyone else is a little dizzy. Dai Lisher saw everyone surrounding Merida and Tang Daquan. She said under the influence of alcohol, Merida, aren't you very rich? Your husband bought you a bag worth 88,000 yuan a few months ago. Take it out and let me see it. Everyone thought that Marlon was a poor man, but when Dai Lisher suddenly mentioned this, the more serious classmates felt that Dai Lisher was going a bit too far. Isn't this tearing down the self-esteem of the poor in public? We are all classmates. Why do this? Gu Xiaoyu likes to make things bigger. Yes, Lao Yang, where is your bag? Show it to us poor classmates. Your family member Marlon also bought you a 5,600 yuan water cup. Let us see it too. Chapter 65, you have to accept gifts when you make trouble in the room. Merida was quite satisfied with today's meal. She smiled and said, Class beauty, aren't you going to work in foreign trade after graduation? Isn't it easy to buy a bag? The bag my husband bought for me was on sale. The original price was less than 100,000. Will I die if I don't pretend to be cool? Dai Lisher thought Merida was lying. Tang Daquan was also very upset with Marlon. Luxury goods are mainly in France, and there are many high-quality imitations in our country. I don't know much about luxury goods. Marlon took the initiative to admit that he lacked knowledge in this area. Dai Lisher proudly took out her bag and said, Sam Tang, please help me check if this is genuine or a replica. I bought it for more than 30,000 yuan. Tang Daquan took the bag and pretended to be an expert. After checking it out, he said, It is genuine. You can buy it abroad for 28,000 yuan. There are tariffs. Dai Lisher said, Merida, can I see your bag? Tang Daquan said, You're a grown man? Why are you studying bags all day? Go find a girlfriend. Merida said, Yes, Merida is right. You should find a girlfriend. Others also advised Tang Daquan. Merida, where's your bag? Dai Lizzie asked unyieldingly. Marlon found this situation hilarious. They were grown-ups, but they were as childish as elementary school students and had to argue about who was right and who was wrong. He stood up, smiled slightly, and went to the chair by the wall of the private room. Everyone put their bags on the chair. Everyone looked at Marlon. It seems that this guy couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to take out the bag for Tang Daquan to identify to prove that his bag was real. Marlon took out his super large water cup from a pile of bags, poured a cup of Chinese medicine, and drank it all. He closed it, put it back, and returned to his seat, lowering his eyebrows and looking calm, as if nothing had happened. Damn it. This is the common voice of everyone, including Merida. You're not holding the bag. Why are you attracting so much attention? You just want to drink water. Why do you have to pose so many times? Marlon seemed to have completely forgotten about the bag. His eyes were dazed and absent-minded. I had no idea what was going on in his mind. Mr. Chun, I thought you were going to take the bag to Old Tang for identification. Dai Leisure said. The kind-hearted classmates were all sighing, saying that Dai Leisure had drunk too much today and was too aggressive. This was a class reunion, and Marlon looked like he had bought a fake bag to trick his wife and didn't dare to take it out. Why did you have to push him too far? Just when everyone thought Marlon was going to explain, Marlon took out his cell phone and went out to answer the call. Damn, this guy has too many fake moves. In order to prevent the authenticity of the bag from being identified, he actually chose to escape by phone. Marlon finished the call and came back to Merida and said, Xiao Xue, the agent called that phone Da Xiao and said that the landlord arrived early. How about I leave first? Don't drink. If you drink, you will definitely get scolded when you go back. How could this little trick escape the eyes of her mother? You didn't even buy a house when you got married. People who are willing to spend 80,000 yuan on a bag actually rent a house. Your consumption concept is really too advanced. Sam Tang, is it the same abroad? Tang Dequan said. There are similar behaviors abroad where people don't buy houses but spend money in advance. Marlon also found it strange. I have never been abroad, so I don't understand. Is this considered enjoying the advanced model abroad in advance? Dai Leisure almost became autistic. This guy was obviously pretending to be cool, and now he has become an advanced lifestyle model in foreign countries. How could Gu Xiaoyu give up such an opportunity to stir up trouble? Marlon, I remember you wanted to buy a house. Jin Xiao Howding. More than 300 square meters, right? The price of that place is not cheap. Marlon smiled and said nothing. Seeing Marlon's expression, Dai Leisure immediately understood that this person was guilty. Marlon, Lao Yang is my best friend. Buying a house is a happy event. It's rare for us to get together. How about giving Lao Yang a house? Pregnancy makes people stupid for 3 years. After Merida became pregnant, her IQ dropped for 2 months. At this moment, she suddenly came to her senses and wondered where Marlon got the money to buy a house. Merida, whose IQ has been restored, waved her hands repeatedly, even giving up the braised shrimp that was about to reach her mouth. No, we have to sign a contract today. Marlon, you go sign the contract, and we will continue the party. Okay, remember not to drink. Marlon was about to leave when Dai Leisure grabbed his arm. Monitor, everyone has eaten and drunk enough. Today is the big day when our class wine god Merida buys a house. She bought a 300 square meter mansion, a luxurious house. How about we go and make trouble for her? The squad leader was Zhu Chaoyang, a fat man wearing glasses. He looked very steady. Because he was drunk, he didn't realize that Dai Leisure was deliberately trying to embarrass Marlon. So he said, okay, let's go together. Marlon said, you need to give gifts to make trouble in the bridal chamber, 888 or 666 per person? Dai Leisure didn't expect Marlon to do this. 666, that means everything goes well. Gu Xiaoyu said. She planned to share the spoils with Merida privately after she received the money. Okay, 666, I'll give it to you. But if you don't buy a house, you have to pay back 10 times the amount. Dai Leisure was about to transfer the money, which would drive Marlon, the bully, to death. Marlon took Merida's phone and opened the payment code. Scan it. Confirm again, if you don't buy the 300 square meter house in Jinxiu Howding, you must return the gift tenfold. Dai Leisure recorded with her mobile phone. Confirm, Marlon said. After recording, Dai Leisure played it once. Everyone cheered together, scanned the code, and paid, and the atmosphere was quite lively. Except Tang Dequan, everyone else gave money. Tang Dequan doesn't have a domestic account and doesn't know how to transfer money. Sam Tang doesn't have to pay. He treated us to dinner today, so it's considered as paying. Marlon said. Merida was dizzy because of Marlon. When Marlon was around, she habitually let Marlon do the thinking and just focused on eating. Let's go, I've paid the bill, said Tang Dequan. My car is in the underground parking lot, said Marlon. Merida did not forget to grab a piece of pork chop and chew it while walking. It's shameful to waste food. Merida muttered indistinctly. Jinxiu Howding is more than 40 minutes away from the revolving restaurant. Those who have been drinking can find a designated driver, while those who haven't drunk, such as Marlon, can drive themselves. Follow the car in front closely. Dai Lizzie said to the designated driver, fearing that Marlon would escape. More than 20 cars were parked in front of the cheap real estate Shikamaru store. More than 40 people came out of the cars, both men and women, all reeking of alcohol, and they looked like bad people. The store manager was so scared that his legs went weak. Are they here to smash the store? Are they the customers we cheated who came to visit us? No, I have never seen these people before. They must be in the same industry. The internal competition among agents is too fierce. The store manager asked all employees to be on high alert and to immediately hit people with stools if an accident occurred. The store manager stood at the door of the toilet, intending that if a conflict occurred, both the employees and the bad guys would be injured, and then he could hide in the toilet, lock the door, and be safe. Feng Daqiao recalled that more than a month ago, he was surrounded by many people in another store. He did not expect that when he changed stores, the tragic fate would repeat itself. This year is not a good year. He was ready for a fierce battle. Marlin came over and asked, "Where's Feng Daqiao?" Feng Daqiao was so scared that his legs were shaking and he wanted to run away. Damn it, they were really here to find him. "Mr. Chun, I haven't offended you. I really haven't done anything to let you down." Feng Daqiao was about to cry. Marlin was confused. "Didn't you just call me to sign the contract?" "Sign a contract? You and your wife can come to sign the contract. Why did you bring so many people here? Are you trying to rape me? Oh no. Are you trying to force me to sign? A house purchase contract signed without the consent of the parties is invalid. The purpose of the class reunion is to arrange for new characters to appear. I have read other novels where the class reunion was like a gathering of enemies in the Valley of Evil, which I don't like very much. This is a realistic novel, and I tried my best to write the class reunion more normal and the house buying more interesting. I hope you like it. Chapter 66 Tang, Daquan meets Zhou Yumei again. Merida appeared with a big belly. "Marlin, stop it." Dai Leisure followed up and said, sign now. "Isn't there a bank next to it? Do you want to pay in full or take out a loan?" Feng Daqiao immediately understood. Marlin was cheating on his wife, and his wife and the mistress were having a duel today, and they chose the agency as the venue for the fight. "You guys can fight as much as you want, just don't hurt innocent people." Feng Daqiao had set the tone in his mind. When the store manager saw that the visitor was there to buy a house, he asked his employees to quietly put down the stools they were holding tightly. Marlin didn't know that he had been through a life-and-death situation and said, "Xiaoxue, come over and sign. You are the buyer of the house, and I will pay for it." Feng Daqiao nodded secretly. Although Mr. Chun is a scumbag, he is still good to his pregnant wife, which is a bit humane. It's just that his wife's belly is growing too fast. Less than a week after the last house viewing, her belly came out. After signing the contract, I have to ask her privately what kind of milk powder she eats, which has such a good effect. Dai Leisure followed closely, like a supervisor, which made Feng Daqiao think about it. He didn't know whether the more than 30 people outside were helping the original wife or the mistress, so he went to pour water for them first. "Don't bother. Let's sign the purchase contract quickly," Marlin said. Gu Xiaoyu also followed in. The landlord saw Feng Daqiao with a young man, followed by 3 women, 2 of whom were pretty and young, and the third was not so pretty, but had a good figure. The landlord was immediately impressed by Marlin. This man is awesome, and he has so much energy. Feng Daqiao took out a sample contract and gave it to both parties. Jinxiu Housing, Building 7, Room 701. Floor area 337 square meters, price 40 million. "Do you have any questions?" Marlin asked. "If the payment method is good, can it be cheaper?" The landlord asked. "How much cheaper?" Marlin said, "From what I know, your house has been on the market for almost a year. The total price is too high, and there are many people looking at it, but almost no one is interested. Why don't you sell it to me for 36 million? You could put the money in the bank and earn a lot of interest every day." 36 million. The price is lower than the cheapest one in Jinxiu Housing, where the current average price is 120,000 per square meter. The landlord said, "Unless you pay the full amount at once." "Okay, that's 36 million. Feng Daqiao was stunned. The 2 sides negotiated the contract so quickly. In less than 5 minutes, the price was reduced by 4 million, and there is no need for me to act as an intermediary to coordinate. My eloquence is of no use. Are you looking down on me?" The landlord bought the house before it was built, and the price was more than 20,000 yuan per square meter. The developer also gave them a discount, so the total price was more than 9 million yuan. Now it is sold for 36 million yuan, making a huge profit. If the payment is made by mortgage loan, The current national monetary tightening and loan approval are very slow. It is estimated that it will take at least half a year to get the final payment. Marlon is very willing to reduce the price if he can pay the full amount at once. Mr. Chun, can you pay the full amount within 1 month? Asked the landlord. How is that possible? It's only 2 o'clock now, and the bank stops counter business at 4:45. Of course, the contract has been signed, and everything has been paid. Marlon said. Dai Leisure was a lot drunker and vaguely felt that she had done something wrong. The landlord was surprised. He didn't expect Marlon to be so rich. Feng Daqiao, on the contrary, was very calm. As a real estate agent, he had met many wealthy people. The contract content was quickly confirmed, and the buyer was Merida. Only Merida's name is on the property deed, Marlon said. Feng Daqiao has basically confirmed that this is a war between the original wife and the mistress, so he does not write the husband's name. As an outsider, it is better not to ask about the details. He estimates that Marlon and Merida will divorce once the property division is clear and then immediately fall into the arms of the mistress. The house purchase contracts are all standard. After both parties have signed them, they can sign them online to become formally effective. Feng Daqiao took the landlord and Marlon to the bank nearby, and the three women wanted to follow. Xiaoxue, you are pregnant. Don't move. Rest in the store. I'll be there quickly. Marlon said, get a number at the bank, queue up, transfer money, and it's done in less than half an hour. The landlord handed the key to Marlon and said, Mr. Chun, I like people like you who are straightforward. As for the water, electricity, gas, and TV bills, take a look and tell me how much you owe. I'll pay for it. No, forget about this little money. No, we are from Shanghai. How can we take advantage of you? I will transfer some money to you, no matter how much. We don't need to haggle about it anymore. How about that? The landlord's house was sold. The money was in his account. He was very happy and generous. He transferred 9 yuan to Marlon in seconds. After receiving the money, Marlon kept his lips tightly shut, afraid that he could not help but say hello to the landlord's elders. Back at the store, Feng Daqiao took the transfer voucher and the paper contract for the purchase of the house, sorted them out one by one, and both parties signed again. The purchase process was completely completed, and the remaining thing was for the buyer to get the new property certificate himself. Merida, who turned into a sleepwalking sheep, was confused. If she were asked to receive customers at this time, she would probably be willing to do so. He took out a bag containing 80,000 yuan and carefully put the contract into the bag. This thing was much more valuable than the bag. When Dai Leisure saw Merida holding the 80,000 yuan bag as if it were an 8 yuan bag, she remembered that she treated the 30,000 yuan bag as a treasure. Her heart was filled with sourness and her mouth was filled with bitterness. I am the class beauty. I have good grades. I was admitted to university, and Merida is a drunkard who only went to vocational high school. So how could she marry such a good man? At this moment, she no longer doubted that Merida's bag was a high imitation. She just felt ashamed. Her face was hot, and her heart was agitated. Mr. Chun, let's go into the house and take a look. I'll take your wives with me, said Feng Daqiao. Jinxiu Houding is very close to the agency, and since my classmates said they wanted to have a house hunting party, they all went there. They didn't even take a car, but headed straight to Merida's house. The house is a duplex structure with 2 floors. The lower floor, including the balcony, is over 170 square meters, and the upper floor is over 150 square meters. More than 30 people went in, and it didn't seem crowded at all because there was no furniture in the house. Lao Yang, what does your husband do? How can he buy a house as casually as buying steamed buns? Finally, a woman couldn't stand it anymore and asked Merida. He's a programmer. Programmers are so awesome nowadays. Maybe it's because the company went public and distributed dividends. Marlon had to come out and explain. Our company went to Hong Kong for fun, and I bought the Mark 6 lottery and won the special prize and the first prize. It's okay if you don't want to say it, but lying is wrong. Everyone criticized Marlon together. No one believed the truth, so Marlon had to lie. I have a grandfather, and my grandfather had a brother who was drafted into the army during the war. He suddenly found our house a month ago. He opened a company abroad and made some money. When the financial crisis hit, he sold the company. The money was not much, only a few $100 million. He divided the money among his grandchildren. Suddenly, he remembered that he had a brother in his hometown, so he asked someone to find out about me. I happened to be an only child, so he gave me 50 million. Depend on? This works too. Everyone was full of envy and contempt for Marlon, who was so lucky. Merida asked, why haven't I ever heard you mention this before? I didn't know how to tell you about what happened over a month ago. I was afraid that your emotional excitement would affect the fetus. Marlon was depressed. Lying was so troublesome. He didn't know how many lies he would have to use to cover it up. Marlon, his phone rang again. It was Zhou Yumei, the pregnancy preservation expert. She didn't dare to call Merida because she was afraid of radiation. What time is it? Why haven't you come back yet? Zhou Yumei's angry voice could not be blocked by the phone. Marlon explained, Mom, we came back a long time ago and we're playing in Jinxiu Mansion with our classmates. Are you afraid to come back after drinking? Merida has such a stubborn mouth that she can't control herself at all. Where are you guys? It's really in Jinxiu Mansion. I found some time to buy a house. If you don't believe me, come and see for yourself. It's the one I saw last time. You found time to buy a house? I think you are asking for trouble. I'm coming over now. If you're not here, I'll show you how I'll deal with you. Xiao Xue has led you astray. Merida has been annoying since she was a child. Angry pregnancy preservation expert Zhou Yumei hung up the phone. Marlon wanted to slip away. According to the plan, he should go for a walk in the park. The air in the city was really not as good as that in the suburbs. Not long after, there was a knock on the door and Zhou Yumei, sweating profusely, appeared. When she saw so many people in the room, she was shocked and thought she had entered some kind of pyramid scheme. Hello, Onchi. Sam Tang greeted politely. Zhou Yumei looked at Tang Dequan and said, Hello, I think I've seen you before. You look familiar. Annie has an excellent memory. I am Tang Dequan. Tang Dequan? Who is he? Zhou Yumei was confused. Annie, don't you remember me? Back then, you chased me 7 laps around the playground of Tianlin number 3 middle school with a rolling pin. You collapsed from exhaustion on the 8th lap, and I had to take you to the local hospital for oxygen. When you woke up, you ran to find a rolling pin without paying for the medical expenses, and you even used my pocket money to pay for the medical expenses. Annie, have you forgotten everything? Zhou Yumei's face was livid. What are you doing here? Xiao Xue is married and has been pregnant for 3 months. You'd better give up that idea as soon as possible. You have no chance of becoming a mistress. Oh, I see. You are here to collect debts. How much pocket money is there? I will give it to you right away. Chapter 67 Class Reunion ends. Sam Tang was completely stunned and had no idea how to respond. Merida felt extremely embarrassed. Mom, can you please stop talking? Zhou Yumei transformed herself into a human alcohol tester, grabbed Merida, smelled her from head to toe, and asked Merida to breathe on her. You didn't drink any alcohol. You managed to control yourself this time, but you ate some fried food. Zhou Yumei was quite satisfied with Merida's performance. Tang Dequan hid aside and drew circles, while Merida's other classmates came up to greet Zhou Yumei. What are you doing here? Zhou Yumei asked. Marlon bought the house, Merida said. Zhou Yumei's mouth was wide open, and if an apple was stuffed into it, she would definitely suffocate to death like Snow White. But it really fit in. Did Marlon rob a bank, or were you cheated by him? It's obvious that this guy is not a good person. He specifically cheats pure little girls like you. Zhou Yumei's mind was obviously confused. She spoke incoherently, and her logic was confusing. Even more confusing than when she suddenly saw Tang Dequan. Merida opened her bag, took out the house purchase contract, and gave it to Zhou Yumei. Only then did the old lady believe it was real. Marlon, why is your name not on it? Zhou Yumei asked. I bought it for Xiao Xue, said Marlon. Other classmates came to compliment Zhou Yumei on her good fortune, saying that her daughter married a rich man who was especially good to her. What's so good about that? Do you know why Marlon didn't write his own name? He has lung cancer in the advanced stage, and he only has 6 months to live. Zhou Yumei thought of the good things about her son-in-law and thought that he would not live long. She could no longer hold back her tears. Her nose felt sore, and she started crying. Afraid of being seen, she turned around and rushed to the bathroom. She was not familiar with the environment and moved too fast, so she hit her head on the door, making 2 bang-bang sounds. If Yang Xingyu was there, he would have thought his mother was calling his girlfriend. Merida also felt sad. Mom. The 2 women who quarreled every day hugged each other and cried silently. The scene was a bit sad. Marlon didn't know what to say. 8 out of 10 things in life are not as we wish. The classmates were a little jealous of Merida at first, but after learning about Marlon's situation, sympathy overwhelmed everything, and they all came to comfort the 2 of them. Tang Dequan vaguely saw a glimmer of hope. Marlon smiled and said it was okay, but he felt sad inside. No one could tell whether there will be a tomorrow. The classmates said goodbye one after another. Merida locked the door and headed home as well. Gu Xiaoyu followed behind Merida and said, Old Yang, let's divide the spoils. Merida asked, what's the score? Without my instigation, would Dai Leisure encourage everyone to make trouble in the bridal chamber? If everyone didn't make trouble in the bridal chamber, how could you have received so much gift money? There were multiple people, each receiving a gift of 666 yuan, and Merida received more than 20,000 yuan. Dream on while I give up the money I earned. Merida wondered how Gu Xiaoyu could become so stupid. They had been friends for many years, but they didn't even know each other's personalities. You're so cruel. From now on, you have to treat me to a big meal every week, otherwise I will never let you go. Gu Xiaoyu said harshly. Merida said, if you can get past my mom, you can eat as much as you want. Zhou Yumei looked at Gu Xiaoyu warily. What do you mean by eat whatever you want? Do you want to harm my grandson? Gu Xiaoyu had no choice but to leave. Merida laughed contemptuously from behind. How can I beat my mother if I can win a fight? When my mother gets ruthless, she will even kill her own daughter. Then she gave Gu Xiaoyu a red envelope. Gu Xiaoyu heard the red envelope notification sound. You have a conscience. He clicked it with expectation and found that the amount was 0 yuan. Gu Xiaoyu was so angry that he almost threw his phone away. The cheap agency Shikamaru's store is a bit messy inside. The employees didn't work seriously and all surrounded Feng Daqiao. Treat us. Colleagues looked at Feng Daqiao and wished they could send him into the oil press to squeeze out every last drop of oil. Feng Daqiao smiled and said, of course you are welcome. According to Shanghai regulations, real estate agents can charge a commission of 2 to 3 percentage points based on the transaction price. Under normal circumstances, a commission of 1 percentage point is charged to both the buyer and the seller. Today, Feng Daqiao spent less than 2 hours to close a house worth 36 million yuan. The agency fee was 1.08 million yuan. According to the 45% commission, Feng Daqiao can earn more than 400,000 yuan. The house had been on the market for more than a year, but had not been sold. The store specifically said that whoever closed the deal would receive an extra 5 percentage points, or 50%. Feng Daqiao ultimately received a commission of 540,000 yuan. As a result, Feng Daqiao, who had been in Xindian for less than a month, once again became the monthly sales champion. Ma Zhongjie found a deserted place and slapped himself 3 times. Damn it, Marlin is obviously a big fish and his client, but he actually gave it to Feng Daqiao personally. Ma Zhongjie wanted to die. After smoking, Ma Zhongjie had to go back to the store, smiling and complimenting Feng Daqiao. Feng Daqiao treated everyone to hot and sour noodles, which cost 6 yuan a bowl. This is not being stingy. It's a unified rule in the store. Whoever sells a house will treat the others to hot and sour noodles. Let everyone experience the sourness of jealousy, both mentally and physically. The real estate agency industry is an industry with huge income disparity. Those with good performance can get generous commissions, while those with poor performance only receive a basic salary of 1,500 yuan per month. The elimination rate is very high. After Feng Daqiao treated everyone to a meal, more than a dozen employees in the store felt that they could not let him off easily and forced him to treat everyone to hot and sour noodles for a week. Finally, someone had a hemorrhoid attack and he stopped treating everyone. Feng Daqiao always felt that he would have another encounter with Marlin in the future. After Dai Leisure returned home, she was still feeling angry. Marlin said that his second grandfather made a lot of money abroad, and this second grandfather must have a company. After all, it is difficult to earn 50 million just by working. Dai Leisure entered Marlin's name and searched it online. You don't know until you see it. It's shocking. Marlin is actually a popular figure on Weibo. I clicked in and took a look. Oh my god, what on earth did this guy do? He had a life-and-death fight with an old lady on the bus, beat another old lady to death at the door of the toilet in the park, stole a young woman's cell phone in the park, and secretly took pictures of a young woman's breasts on the subway. This guy is definitely a scumbag and a hooligan. Dai Leisure felt even more depressed. Why couldn't I marry such a bad guy? He bullied the weak outside and was a weakling bullied by women at home. This guy is so rich that he doesn't even put his name on the house he buys for a woman. The most important thing is that this guy only has 6 months to live. After he dies, Merida can find a new one. It's really so envious that it makes people desperate. Dai Leisure always felt that she would have another encounter with Marlin in the future. Marlin and Merida, mother and daughter, return home. Although Jinxiu Mansion is luxurious and spacious, it is not habitable because of its lack of furniture. Now we have to move back to our old house. The three of them sat down, and Zhou Yumei began to interrogate her ex-son-in-law. Marlon, where did you get the money to buy the house? Marlon wanted to say that he won the lottery, but then he remembered that he had told Merida's classmates, but no one believed him. So he had to tell the story again about his second grandfather who made a fortune abroad and remembered his poor brother before he died. I gave you 50 million, and you used 360 million to buy a house for Xiaoxue? Zhou Yumei sighed softly. This son-in-law was really amazing and was so good to her daughter. Thinking of how her daughter used to order Marlon around, Zhou Yumei wanted to pinch her disappointing daughter. Xiaoxue, Mom will peel an apple for you. Zhou Yumei turned her anger into appetite. Mom, I ate a lot at noon, and now my stomach is full. If I eat any more, the baby in my stomach will be squeezed out. You are such a pessimist. Stop talking nonsense. Zhou Yumei was unhappy. Merida was even more upset. Mom, you didn't treat me like a human being at all. You just treated me like a fetal incubator. Just let me provide nutrition for the baby. Chapter 68, My Aunt Visits. Young heir is not good at anything except eating. You are not even as good as young heir. You are not good at anything, not even eating. Zhou Yumei attacked her daughter in all aspects. The mother and daughter won't quarrel now because they are in a good mood after buying a big house, and they can endure any unacceptable things until they can't bear it anymore. There's a knock on the door. Marlon opened the door and saw a middle-aged woman who looked much younger than Zhou Yumei, but looked about 50% like Merida. Annie, who are you looking for? Marlon asked. The middle-aged woman looked Marlon up and down, and a satisfied smile gradually appeared on her face. Are you Marlon? Yes, I'm Marlon. Marlon still didn't know who the other person was. When Zhou Yumei heard the voice, she even spared Merida and quickly came out of the living room with a sneer on her face. Miss Young, why are you here? Was there no car accident on the road? The middle-aged woman saw Zhou Yumei and laughed. Sister-in-law, I stopped by to see if you were still causing trouble in the world. Good people don't live long, but troublemakers live for 1,000 years. You are really worthless. You look guilty. Xiaoxue didn't even invite me to her wedding, and my niece's husband didn't even recognize me. What's wrong? Are you afraid that if I tell everyone about your ugly deeds, your daughter won't be able to get married? You epilepsy, stop slandering me. If you have the guts, let's go out and talk. Zhou Yumei wanted to change the battlefield. Yang Jianfeng, who was called epileptic by Zhou Yumei, laughed. Zhou Yumei, why are you scared? Ha ha ha. Don't worry. Your son-in-law is an internet celebrity now. If I hadn't seen your son-in-law secretly taking pictures of young women's breasts on Weibo, I wouldn't have come to you. Zhou Yumei was confused. What do you mean by secretly photographing women's breasts? Yang Jianfeng said, You don't know? Your good son-in-law stole someone's phone and was caught, took a picture of a woman's breasts on the subway and was caught again, bullied an old man on the bus and escaped, causing the man to fall and be seriously injured, and knocked an old man half to death in the park. There is a high possibility of a lawsuit, and you are still in the dark. Zhou Yumei sneered. Epilepsy, go somewhere else if you're crazy. If it weren't for you, would your brother have died so early? Yang Jianfeng curled her lips and said, You killed my brother, and now someone is trying to harm your daughter. This is retribution. Marlon finally figured out that the epileptic woman was his father-in-law's sister. Hello, Onchi. It's our first meeting. You look so energetic. Please come in and sit down. Marlon warmly invited the man into the house. This house belongs to me. Your mother-in-law took it by force. Yang Jianfeng took 2 steps into the room, kicked off her shoes, and sat down on the sofa. Xiaoxue, you didn't even call your aunt when you saw her. You've been corrupted by your mother. You should be polite and don't learn from your mother. She never tires of ruining people. I don't know how many elementary school students have been ruined by your mother. Zhou Yumei was so angry, but she didn't want to lose her composure in front of her son-in-law, so she had to swallow her anger and said, Yang Jianfeng, at least you can call me sister-in-law. I won't argue with you today. Xiaoxue is pregnant. Don't make her unhappy. Only then did Yang Jianfeng notice that Merida had obviously gained some weight. Aunt, you said Marlon stole the phone and took photos secretly? Merida asked with a smile. Yang Jianfeng hesitated for a moment and said, You are pregnant. Don't worry about these troubles. They are all in the past, and the things on the internet may be rumors. Marlon sighed. He didn't care what others said about him. He was afraid that Merida would be unhappy and it would affect the fetus. Xiaoxue, I have entrusted lawyer Nio with this matter. She will collect evidence. The internet is not a lawless place. I will sue the other party for defamation. Marlon briefly explained a few things. Merida and others already knew about it, and Marlon said this as an explanation to his aunt. Yang Jianfeng obviously believes the internet and not Marlon. That's not what it says online, Marlon. You're lying. Are you afraid that Xiao Xue will find out that you stole the phone? Seeing that Merida was in a stable mood, Yang Jianfeng bluntly exposed Marlon. Her purpose was not to target Marlon, but to deliberately anger Zhou Yumei. Zhou Yumei laughed disdainfully. Do you think our Marlon is the same as you, wanting everything he sees? Do you think Marlon, who buys houses like buying cabbages, would steal other people's phones? Come on, Marlon got married and bought a house, and he's in debt. As his mother-in-law, it seems like you didn't contribute a penny. If you hadn't swindled the property left by my parents, you would have to live on the street. You're so poor that you have to lick dust from the ground, said Yang Dianfeng. Zhou Yumei said, Xiao Xue, take out your 80,000 yuan bag and open your eyes to your ignorant aunt. Marlon and Merida lowered their heads to eat sunflower seeds, pretending not to hear. One is the biological mother, and the other is the biological aunt. Neither of them is weak, so there is no need for the younger generation to get involved. Yang Jianfeng said, You stupid Zhou, you said I was ignorant, but I don't know who is ignorant. You don't know that there is such a thing as a high imitation in this world. You can't say that a bag that costs 8 yuan at a street stall is worth 80,000 yuan. Zhou Yumei couldn't stand this injustice. She rushed into the bedroom and threw Merida's bag onto the table casually. An $8 bag? Open your epileptic eyes and read it. Don't have a seizure after reading it. Yang Jianfeng curled her lips, looking a bit disdainful, and picked up the bag. It's made of plastic, 7 yuan, free shipping in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. If you give a screenshot of the good review, you can get 3 yuan back. As she looked down on him, she unzipped the bag and saw a stack of papers inside. The woman's curiosity made her open it quickly. When she saw the words house transaction contract, she quickly turned to the page with the transaction amount and laughed like a convulsion. Zhou Yumei, this is too fake. The person is fake. The house purchase contract is fake. If you bought a house worth 3 or 5 million, I would still believe you. But if you bought a house worth 36 million, I would really go crazy if I believed you. Zhou Yumei smiled in an unfathomable way. Did you bring the medicine? What medicine? Medicine to prevent you from having seizures. Look at the back of the contract. When Yang Jianfeng saw the bank transaction slip on the back of the contract, his eyes went dark and he showed obvious signs of having a seizure. She calmed herself down and counted the zeros on the bank transaction slip. It was indeed 36 million. She looked at it carefully and found that it was indeed a bank transaction slip. It was illegal to forge this thing. I looked at the person who swiped the card and saw it was Marlon. Then I opened the purchase contract and found that only Merida's name was written on it. Marlon bought a house for Merida? Why didn't he put his own name on it? This has nothing to do with you, Ms. Crazy Sheep. Do you think our Marlon would steal a cell phone? Zhou Yumei asked with a smile. The corners of Yang Jianfeng's mouth twitched, and she almost foamed at the mouth. She quickly adjusted her mentality and found a new target. Zhou Yumei, Marlon bought a house for you, and this house must be returned to me. And is here at our house too? What a rare guest. Didn't you say you would never come to my house again and cut off all ties? Why? I bought a house, and you come here to take it away from me? The person who was speaking was Yang Xingyu. He had just returned from outside. As soon as he heard that Yang Jianfeng was going to take over the house, he immediately became unhappy. He thought that the house Yang Jianfeng was talking about was the one he was buying at the court auction. Xiaoyu has grown so tall again. Zhou Yumei, how have you educated your child? After not seeing him for a few months, Xiaoyu has become more and more impolite. Yang Jianfeng pretended to be sad and put a hat on Zhou Yumei and Yang Xingyu first. Zhou Yumei was in a good mood and said, Xiaoyu, your aunt came here today not to ask for the house, but to frame your brother-in-law for stealing the phone. Chapter 69. Brotherly and sisterly love cannot withstand rising housing prices. Chapter 69. Brotherly and sisterly love cannot withstand rising housing prices. Brother-in-law stole my phone? Aunt, my brother-in-law was framed. With my help, he beat up the person who framed him and made 200,000 yuan. Yang Heir spoke frankly and without ulterior motives, telling the story of how Marlon had an antagonistic relationship with the woman who lost her phone, and how he had made her sign a contract and got the other party to pay him 100,000 yuan. After that, he also told the story of how he made money from Tang Jiasan Shao. My brother-in-law is amazing. He turned waste into treasure and made me earn $200,000. It was easy and fun. Of course, my mom used the money to buy a house. Yang Xingyu looked so smug that he didn't notice his sister, brother-in-law, and mother, all of whom had gloomy faces. Marlin wanted to trick the two bad guys, but then he felt a little embarrassed. Those guys were indeed bad, but they didn't deserve such a severe punishment. Yang Jianfeng was so envious that she felt desperate. Is it true? Xiaoyu. Yang Xingyu is such an idiot that he doesn't care about the consequences when he shows off. He first showed his aunt the transfer record, and then showed her the contract. Whether it is true or not, you can judge for yourself. Yang Xingyu said proudly. Yang heir, can you shut up? Merida wanted to strangle her younger brother to death. She had seen her aunt and father fighting over real estate, and she still remembered that scene vividly. Yang Jianfeng said, foolish, if you don't want to harm your son-in-law and son, just give the house to me honestly. There are 3 people in your family, one is stupid and the other is foolish. Yang Urchi corrected his aunt. 1 fish, 3 ways to eat it. Zhou Yumei told Yang Xingyu to go to his room and not come out and said to Yang Jianfeng, 15 years ago, my parents passed away. The price of this house was 270,000 yuan. You got 300,000 yuan in cash, and your brother got a house worth 270,000 yuan. It was made clear. Later, the house price increased, and you didn't buy a house yourself, but you insisted on snatching your brother's house. You pissed your brother off to death, and now you're trying to piss us off. Yang Jianfeng's expression changed as well. How old was I back then? You bullied me because I was ignorant. I did take 300,000, but the housing prices increased by many times, more than 10 times. You made 4 million from this house, but you are not willing to give me a subsidy of 1 million. How dare you say that? If you don't give me the house, I will tell those victims online about Marlin and Yang Xingyu teaming up to defraud money. Marlin spoke up. Aunt, I don't want to intervene in your past affairs, and I can't intervene. You said I can. Don't bring Xiaoyu up. He was young and ignorant. I asked him to do it. Yang Jianfeng said, Xiaoyu will be 21 years old soon, an adult. If you give me the house, I will give you 300,000 yuan. If you don't give me the house, you can compensate me 3 million yuan. You're going crazy over money. Zhou Yumei never gives in front of her sister-in-law. Marlin, Xiaoyu, let's go out. Yang Mingyu calmly took the 2 of them out, leaving her mother and aunt some private space. Are you okay? Marlin asked worriedly. It's okay. My mom is so good that she will never lose in an argument. At most half an hour, my aunt will come out crying. Yang Xingyu has full confidence in his mother. In less than 20 minutes, Yang Jianfeng came out crying, and Zhou Yumei added, if you fight with me, you will lose a few years of work. How can you be worthy of my brother by bullying me? Yang Jianfeng cried as she walked. You still have the nerve to mention your brother. The smile on Zhou Yumei's face disappeared. Would you like me to go and comfort Annie? Marlin asked. No, the relationship between my aunt and my mom is like a happy song. You are crazy and I am stupid. We are entangled to the end of the world. Xiaoyu, buy a bottle of water for your aunt. It's hot on the road. Merida said. Yang Xingyu went to the canteen and bought a bottle of ice water, handed it over, and comforted his aunt. Aunt, it's too hot. Next time you quarrel with my mother, drink some water in advance. It will hurt your voice. You know my mother is a teacher. She can talk for half an hour without interruption during class. She has a solid foundation and strong skills. She is a professional in quarreling. You need to practice more. Yang Jianfeng unscrewed the water bottle and took a big gulp. This matter is not over yet. Suddenly, he saw Zhou Yumei following him. She turned her head, said nothing, and walked quickly. Soon she was out of the community gate and disappeared. Congratulations, Mom, on your triumphant return. Aunt can never win an argument with you. Yang Xingyu took Zhou Yumei's hand and tried to please his mother. How could your mother, such a skilled and gentle woman, quarrel? I convinced people with reason and virtue. Your aunt was ashamed and cried bitterly and returned home in defeat. Zhou Yumei was very humble. Mom, please stop using idioms. It gives me a headache. Merida is afraid of this elementary school teacher. Zhou Yumei was about to speak again, but Yang Xingyu immediately stopped her. Mom, you should use idioms. I'll get nauseous if you use classical Chinese. Zhou Yumei finally exploded. Hurry up and decorate the house for me, and then move in. I don't want to see your chubby face every day. Yang Xingyu was depressed. Mom, everyone says I'm handsome, but you think I have a round face. You are just being silly and cute. Everyone thinks the little pig is cute, but the mother pig thinks the little pig is stupid. After Merida said this, she realized that she was also scolding her mother. Isn't that saying that her mother is a pig? Zhou Yumei was feeling so proud that she didn't notice her daughter's speech error. The three of them went home. Zhou Yumei wanted to spray disinfectant, saying that Yang Jianfeng had polluted the entire house. But just as she was about to spray, she remembered that her daughter was pregnant. So she immediately gave up and forced Merida to drink a glass of juice, saying that it would enhance her immunity. Yang Xingyu then realized that his brother-in-law had bought a huge house for his sister. He immediately felt that the house his mother had bought for him was not so attractive. He shamelessly asked Merida for the key to Jinxiu Mansion and walked around for 5 times before returning. He was quite satisfied with the 337 square meter house and asked cautiously, "Sister, can I use your house as a wedding house? I can just borrow it for a few days for the wedding." "Get lost." Merida refused without hesitation. Yang Xingyu licked his face and looked for Marlin. "What do you think, brother-in-law? How much did you spend on your wedding? What furniture did you buy? You've already bought that court-ordered house, but you're not going to decorate it." Marlin had been married before, so he threw out a series of questions. Hearing what Marlin said, Yang Xingyu's eyes dimmed. "I have no money. I don't have a penny. Dongdong hopes that I can find a formal job before getting married." Yang Xingyu is still young, 1 year away from the legal marriage age. Before his father passed away, he hoped that his son would get married earlier. Therefore, Yang Xingyu's family all thought that Yang Xingyu should get married earlier. Marlin stumped Yang Xingyu with his question. He remembered that while others were planning for a bright future, he could only plan for his unborn child. Whether he had a future was still unknown. "Xiaoyu, do you want to open a fast food restaurant?" Marlin tried to suggest. "I don't have any money, so I'll go with you to collect tableware and gain more experience." Yang Xingyu became much calmer. Marlin wanted to say that he came to invest money, but was afraid of hurting Yang Xingyu's self-esteem. However, considering that Yang Xingyu was going to make money on his own, he felt that this idiot was starting to become less of an idiot. In the evening, Marlin had dinner with the Yang family. Zhou Yumei told Marlin how Yang Jianfeng had angered her brother to the point of developing cirrhosis of the liver. More than 10 years ago, Yang Jianfeng's parents both passed away, leaving behind a house and 300,000 yuan in savings. Yang Jianfeng's parents lived with Zhou Yumei and her husband, so they left the house to Zhou Yumei and her husband and the savings to Yang Jianfeng. The housing prices at that time were not high, only more than 3,000 yuan per square meter. The market price of this house of less than 90 square meters was only about 270,000 yuan. Yang Xingyu's father, Yang Zicheng, thought that his sister had just gotten married and needed money to settle down, so he gave 300,000 yuan to his sister and kept the house for himself. It was reasonable for him to suffer a little loss as a brother. No one expected that the policy in Shanghai would change, and schooling would have to correspond to the school district. This house became a school district house, corresponding to a demonstration kindergarten, an experimental primary school, and 2 key middle schools in the district. A few years later, the housing prices rose, and the price of this school district house rose particularly sharply. The housing prices in other places rose tenfold, and here they rose nearly 20 times. The house that originally cost 270,000 yuan can now be sold for more than 5 million yuan. When the house was worth more than 2 million yuan, Yang Jianfeng started to make trouble at Zhou Yumei's house, saying that her brother and sister-in-law had cheated her and bullied her because she was young and ignorant. Later, she asked Yang Zicheng to subsidize her with 1 million yuan. Zhou Yumei was an ordinary primary school teacher, and Yang Zicheng worked in a shipyard and was also an ordinary worker. How could they afford 1 million yuan? Yang Zicheng was so angry at his sister that he later died of liver cirrhosis. Because of this, Zhou Yumei and Yang Jianfeng quarreled countless times, basically every time they met. The two sides were like fire and water. Zhou Yumei believed that Yang Jianfeng killed her brother, while Yang Jianfeng believed that it was her sister-in-law who didn't give her money, which made her brother feel so depressed that he got cirrhosis of the liver. "Don't call her Anne anymore. Call her epilepsy," Zhou Yumei said to Marlin. Chapter 70. Yang Xingyu starts to work steadily.